things, I think the increased weight limit passed
Yes.
for haulers on the roads and things. Can you talk a little bit about if that was any penalties?
Yes, sir.
That went along with that increased hauling?
Yes, sir. That is a bill that, it was a struggle to get it passed. There's a lot of conversations about it, a lot of talking about it. And what it is we went from with a parts permit. You now go on July 1, I believe, when it becomes effective, you go from 84,000 pounds to 88,000 pounds with the harvest permit. The conversations that I were in with that is, and I talked to supervisors from all counties, and they're concerned about, we've got county roads that were designed to handle 59,000 pounds, and we're on 84 now. The conversations I had that moved me in the direction to vote for that, which I did, was that people are already hauling 100,000 pounds now. Now, is that true or not? I just believe that the sources that told me, the chair of Highway and Transportations, and some of the other people that were Agriculture, Farm Bureau, these guys, I put some faith in them with that. The punitive things over 88,000 pounds now, I think it's 5 cents a pound. I think it goes up to where it's like $1,500. It's a pretty hard hit, so the people that are going to be over are going to think about it. And the result of that bill is hopefully this. People that were legally hauling 84 can now go to 88, so that's an economic benefit to them. The people that were hauling over excess now will get back in line, or will have such a punitive piece that the finances will help with the road damage we're doing. Hopefully it brings everybody back into line. That was the justification in my mind for supporting that. There was also another bill that didn't make it out, was increase in gas tax. Nobody wants to talk about increasing taxes and stuff, but one of the things I learned, and I wanted some projects. I want 3 to 5 projects to work on between now and the next session, so I can go back and introduce legislation. I didn't introduce any legislation of significance. It wasn't my intent to do that this time. It was to learn, how to do that. So we can find something that's good, find something that's solid, introduce it, hopefully have success and pass it. It's not about enabling something, it's about making a difference. Roads. There's not enough money for roads. We've got to figure out how to do a better job. We've got to have more money for infrastructure. The infrastructure bill that Biden's working on, if that happens to come, I think we've got $20 billion coming to the states, $1 billion a year. I'm using a very simple metric there, but that's significant. But by increasing the gas tax, I think 10 cents, it brought us in line with, I believe, Alabama or maybe Louisiana. We were still in line or under every surrounding state. That's the concern, is if we go above that and our fuel cost is such that these truck drivers will buy in Alabama, Arkansas, Tennessee, or Louisiana. That metric was addressed so that by 10 cents, 20 cents would not make that work. But we should not lose that commerce that we already have, because these people want to know. Everybody's so sophisticated now. They know where to buy the gas. They know how far to go and how to do that. So our diesel, mainly diesel with the cross-country haulers. That's significant. But we've got to find funds somewhere, increase it. And I personally think those funds need to go to the municipalities and the counties. We don't need to go through, they need to find a path right here, because I think they're going to get utilized the best at the local level. Just my perception. Any other questions for me? I've got a big agenda, so I'm not going to waste any more of your time. It's an honor to be here. Thank you for allowing me to serve.
Thank you for coming, sir.
I appreciate it. It's my pleasure to serve.
Thank you. It's an honor to have state senator and state representative, and I was missed all at one time. So our state representative, we want him to make a comment either after Austin Barber, or anytime you feel free to come in. We certainly want to hear your input on some of those matters. Whatever you feel comfortable.
If he wants to go ahead first, after the 5.
Okay. Next on the agenda then is Austin Barber is going to give us an update.
Mr. Williams. Hope everybody's good today. Good morning.
Good morning.
So my goal for this meeting was not just to give you a bunch of paper, but I think it's a helpful document, and I can obviously email it to every one of you guys. What we did was we really went through and looked at what's going on at the federal level as an opportunity to bring new funding in for projects in the county. Obviously, you guys have expressed to me the two priority projects for the county at this point in time that we all know very well, dam, and then of course the county building. Not far behind, I'm sure, are road projects that we've talked about for a long time. Supervisor Montgomery's district. What we wanted to do was we wanted to go through and tell you here are all of the different buckets where there are monies available that we could potentially bring into the county. The biggest one right now, of course, is ARPA, American Rescue Plan, that was passed March 11th, congressional level, signed by the president. As you well know, and I'm happy to. I'm going to go through a 40,000 foot level. If you have any questions, let me know. We can talk about it later. As you know, you've got $9,617,093 that's coming directly into the county. I don't know if it's gotten here yet. It certainly will be here soon. Maybe it has. I hope it has. As you know, we've had conversations. You guys have been a part of these conversations with Senator Wicker's office and other offices. We're waiting on guidance from Treasury to tell you exactly how you can spend the money. As Senator Wicker's office said, as you're looking at, for instance, if you said, how do you want to spend all or some portion of that on this new county facility, the county building facility, since you're going to have the county health department there, they deem that as an acceptable expense. But of course, that's y'all's decision how you want to spend that money. We really got to wait for Treasury guidance to come out. Maybe this week, maybe next week. It is the federal government; they'll get to it when we get there. But again, reiterating. It's 9.6 million in change. It's coming directly to the county for you guys to use. That was a part of ARPA. I had a guy who put this together for me. It's really interesting. As you look through this, everything that's in green, that's bolded in green, are dollars that are potentially available for Ottawa County to go after. Now, some of these are not going to be relevant to you. Some of these are not going to be available to you. But they're big buckets of money that are out there that you can potentially get. I'm going to skip down. Let's see here. What do we want to look at? As we look here under assistance to individuals and families, this is on page 2. About midway on page 2, towards the bottom of page 2, excuse me, there's $56 billion that was sent. A lot of these dollars are going to go to the state level when you're talking about EBT, when you're talking about SNAP, when you're talking about those types of programs. But there are, family violence prevention. There's $450 million there. Older Americans Act program. There's $1.4 billion. Now, do we know for sure that Ottawa County would be eligible for this? I don't know. But what we'll have to do is, if any of these programs, as you don't have time to look to it now, but as you go through these, if any of these look interesting to you, or if you say, hey, you know what, there's a county agency, there's a nonprofit that we're working with that's working on, things for the elderly, or things for, homelessness is obviously not a big issue.
It is a big issue. People don't realize that. I just looked at that. Homeless, there's a need for that and, help here in Ottawa County for people. So that just caught my eye.
I'm glad you corrected me on that. There are two things here for your constituents. There's a tenant-based rental assistance. This is probably page 3 that had $5 billion in there. There's also an emergency rental assistance. These are funds that are there to help those who fall eligible, probably based on their total income, to help them pay their bills, to help them pay the utility bills, their rental, their rent, the lease, things like that. I'm confident that the Mississippi Home Corps is going to be the entity in Mississippi that's going to administer those programs. So those dollars I don't think would come directly into the county, but they're certainly available for your constituents. Those programs are just getting started, and there's a lot of money that's there that has to be spent. So those are good things to tell your constituents who may be eligible for those. Obviously, as you go into some of these other programs, we're just going to need to look and see which of these are viable and which of these would qualify for the county. So that's, I mean, you know, there's 4 or 5 pages here just for ARPA. Okay, it's a massive program. What we would want to do is, as you look through these, if you see something that's interesting, let me know. We'll have to figure out who we're going to work with on that at the county level. I don't have an answer to that right now, just to be candid with you, because I want to see what you're interested in. But then we'll quickly have to, you know, I'll quickly get into that. Other opportunities at the federal level, other buckets. We just talked about ARPA. That's obviously the big one right now. The second one is the RAISE grant. The RAISE grant used to be the BUILD grant, which used to be the Tiger grants. As you guys know, last year, Pickering engineering firm directed your BUILD grant, obviously now called the RAISE grant, application for Courthouse Road. We all knew it was going to be tough to win it in year 1. We were all very transparent on that. It usually takes 2 or 3 years to win that. Up to $25 million award. I think the Courthouse Road application, it was somewhere, it was under 25, but it was 23 or $24 million. I believe you guys are working with Pickering again on that. We're running with whatever assistance we can. They got the lead on that. Jeff, of course, has been talking with you guys. I've been on many emails, so hopefully that will be successful this year. Mr. Williams, you and I talked about that. I said there's usually 2 or 3 big projects in every state that gets awarded. There were 2 in South Mississippi last year, so hopefully Tillamook County, because of the because you guys are doing this with Mississippi State, we'll be in a good position this year. So that's the sort of the second big bucket of money. The third is FEMA. We obviously had a conversation with Mary Alice Browning in Senator Wicker's office, directly having a conversation about the dam project. She told us about the Hazard Mitigation Assistance Program as well as the High Hazard Potential Dam, which is on page 7 of your brochure. Not your brochure, of your packet. I'm not trying to sell you anything. Of your packet. You know, those are 2 programs that we think will give us an opportunity to help with the dam. I do want to go back at the very beginning of this of your packet. It does state one of the things that we've been told over and over and over, which is we have to know exactly what are our costs, what are the project details, what's the timetable, engineering, construction, you know, definitive costs, and of course, what are the benefits to the residents of the county. So, we really need to make sure in 2021 all of those things are getting done. I don't want to say as quickly as possible, because we'll make sure you do it in the best way, but obviously time does matter. And then of course that takes us to congressional earmarks. That's where time really does matter. Congressional earmarks being another bucket for us. 2021, as I stated in the first bullet point of this, and as we've understood, there's not any agreement between the House and the Senate in Washington about how to do earmarks. I think even if there was total agreement, we would still struggle in this year because we just are not quite there in terms of knowing exactly what are our costs, what's the timeline, and here are the details from engineering and construction. But I think we should be in a really good position to work earmarks if there is an agreement between the House and the Senate for 2022. Because we can take the rest of the year to get all those done for the county building as well as for the dam. The next one, which is called American Jobs Plan, which of course is the Biden infrastructure plan, we just don't know what the details are on that yet. The Biden administration has come out with the very last page, $2.3 trillion American Jobs Plan, but that's just all. I mean, it's a plan right now. Congress is going to get their hands on that, and they're going to do what they want to do. That thing could go from $2.3 billion to $6.3 billion or $630 million. You guys know how that works. So we'll see. This is what they have on paper right now. Those are their goals. Certainly, there's going to be money for roads. There's no question about that. And that's obviously where we're going to look to do, to try to find help for County Line Road and maybe Sturgis Road and these types of projects that we've been talking about for so long. But we've got to wait and see what Congress actually passes and if the president signs it or not. So this is everything in one packet for you to be able to see and look at to know what is available for the county to go after dollar-wise at the federal level. Obviously, as Senator Williams talked about, as Rob knows very well, we've been very successful at Capitol thanks to their leadership. we were able to get $1 million for our Hot Road, and we've got projects funded. But this is obviously big money right here, and an opportunity to do some priority projects. So, what questions?
I'll just say thank you for this. I mean, if you look at our agenda, there's so many upcoming presentations that this could be possible. I mean, there's so much opportunity right here for, when you look at the next items on our agenda, that maybe they weren't even aware of. So I appreciate you giving us this.
And when I leave here, I'm going to email that, so you all have it in your email inbox as well. Because I know you'll want to spend some time looking at it. And obviously, we're going to be available to take your questions or your call. And we're going to have to go figure out something else, just to be candid with you. It's all new, but that's why we have friends with the congressional delegations that we can pick up the phone and call and say, okay, they'd like to do this. How do we do this? And then, of course, you can direct us to someone that's on the agenda today who may be our point person to work with. But I think it's a real positive. I do. Those are programs there that Congress and the President decided to put money towards. It's free money there. You just got to go get it. I mean, they're different than obviously the direct payments you got, the $9.6 million. That was already going to be sent to you. These other ones we have to go control.
So right now, you have what you need from the board to approach funding sources. You have the necessary board order. I know you don't have the estimates and all those things on some of the stuff.
That's right. Yeah. I'm going to give you as precise an answer as I possibly can. I have from the board that there are 2 priority projects right now. One is the dam, and the second is the county building. Okay, to try to get federal dollars for at this point in time. And I would say the third or the 2 roads in John's district. So what we must have are all the details about really, particularly these first 2 projects. I think the third one, the roads in John's district, that's what we're going to try to attack through the infrastructure plan once it passes Congress. So yeah, you need to get details on those, and you probably already have them. Yes, sir. But we have some time on those until that's actually passed from Congress. These 2 projects, the dam and the county building, those are things that Rob and I have discussed, and as we were told by Senator Wicker's office, we just got to know costs, we got to know the timeline, got to know engineering, got to know construction, and then obviously benefit to the citizens of the county. Once we know those, we'll be ready to go.
Well, my question to the board is that when we set these priorities, are we going to stay with these priorities till they get funded, or after each attempt to get funding, will we look at changing our priorities? And what I'm saying is, perfect case in point, you got a change in administration. So this administration has different priorities than the last administration. So if we resubmit the project that we submitted with the bill grant and use that to submit on the raise grant, based upon the conversation I heard, we probably won't be too successful. Because it was submitted during that previous administration. This administration's priorities are different. So what I'm saying is that when you go to the legislature and you ask for money for these projects, if those projects get funded, we move forward. But if they don't get funded, when is the time? Is the board going to continue to keep resubmitting those projects and just keep hoping that they get funded and keep resubmitting them? Or are we going to possibly look at moving to another project?
I think that's a great question.
Well, my answer to that is, I think the board establishes priorities from the beginning. And just because we don't get funded, I don't see, in my eyes, I don't see how that changes the priority of getting things taken care of what we have established as a priority. Case in point, Cadillac Dam, that's a priority that's not going to go away until this is taken care of. You've got lives that's hanging in the balance based on this dam. So I don't see how you can say, well, we didn't get it funded, so let's move on. That's not a priority anymore. That's just my thing.
I think what I heard was that how important the data was behind what we wanted. I mean, that's what I heard when we were listening to Senator Wicker's office, was the data. And you talking about the administration change, when we talked about the county building and we talked about the health department, she perked up being in that building because she thought that would be the opportunity to lead with that project. So I think when you're talking about the administration change, I think, yes, there may be different perspectives on how you lead the project forward. And I know that's gonna be a complete building, but that's what I heard, was that we have to have all of the data to truly back up these projects for what we want.
Well, my point to answer you, if it was a project with the county, we would use county money to go ahead and get it done.
And you know, if at some point we decide, listen, we're not gonna get any help on this project, that's what we're gonna have to do.
Well, that's what I'm saying. When do we determine it?
Yeah.
After keep submitting it over and over for 5 years?
Yeah, well,
I
I totally agree with you. I understand exactly what you're saying. At some point, after we've submitted and tried to get funding and hadn't been able to, then we just gotta reach down and pull ourselves up by our own bootstraps and go for another project that we can get funded, and in the meantime, take care of what we need to take care of at the house ourselves. And move forward.
And I would say, obviously, you do have a new administration. You've got direct control of both bodies in Congress. And I think at the county level, that's a good thing because they're willing to spend money. They're willing to send money. Just look at ARPA. Look how much money is in there. And I think Rita makes a good point. To hear Senator Wicker's office really perk up, she did when we were talking about the new county building. That's a good sign. And just got to figure out the right buckets to fund that construction of that building. And then, you know, with the dam, obviously you guys are going through a process right now. You're going to get engineering dollars, engineering costs, timeline, and so on and so forth. Then we just got to go have a conversation with MEMA and FEMA and figure out, is this doable? Are the dollars there with this new information that we have to help us get this thing funded? And I think we owe it to this project. I'm not saying you disagree, but we owe it to this project to go have those conversations again with MEMA/FEMA, as well as getting Senator Wicker's office, who has been very helpful. We want to support this, have them help me push on that as well as with Congressman Guest's office, who I know will want to do that as well. And then it's a decision, y'all.
Well, in relation to the dam, we've never had pre-mitigation program in place before. Now we have had a hazard mitigation, which wasn't about 500,000 or so, but now we're talking about $500 million with the pre-mitigation program. So I believe that the county dam would be receiving, if we do it right, I believe that the county dam will receive some of those funding that we talked about during our phone calls. And that's the pre-mitigation funding that's available. That's $500 million that's going to be available.
But let me say this, regardless of what funding source is in place, if we hadn't did our due diligence, if we don't have what we need, we can't just go and say we want to build a dam and without having the proper paperwork, proper research, the proper numbers, how much it's going to cost, how long it's going to take, what it's going to affect. Regardless of what funding source is in place, we've got to have our work done up front before we go asking for help. And we just hadn't did that. I mean, as a board, we just have not did that. Now, I can say that this board has taken initiative, even with the county building. We've already hired an architect to do a study, assessment on how much space it would be, what size footprint we would need, what it's costing us currently to run the facilities we have, what could we offset. So this board has taken initiative on that project with the County Lake Dam. We've made spits and starts on that, but we've got to see it through to be ready to go and present and ask for funding. That we just hadn't did that. That's been our problem. So regardless of what funding source is out there, if we don't get ours done, we still lose. That's just it.
And want us to have the price tag laid out. They want to know what the total cost is. Mr. Barber, if you could, with the weight limit that's going from 84 to 88,000, just the generic county road, would be my ask. There's a lot of county roads, we just can't keep them, with the monies that we're getting from fuel tax and the ad valorem that we get, and we're in better shape than a lot of other counties. So if there's anything on the state level, and I'll echo that to Senator Williams as well, just a generic county road, some money for that road. I hear a lot of these projects that need to happen, and they do, but there's taxpayers up and down every county road that have potholes, washouts, pushouts, that can't handle legal weight, that keep me up at night, and the funding sources that I see that are going to some other projects or projects that we're asking for, in my opinion, there needs to be a portion of it, and a larger portion of it, considered for the generic county road. Now, this board, Lowndes County, Clay County, other county boards, those discussions can be had on that table. But just the generic county road needs a shot in the arm in the state of Mississippi under the current, and the way prices keep going up and away. That's what keeps me up at night as a supervisor, is where I fall short in my district because there's just no money for road repair or improvement. And I don't want to go out and have to locally bond a bunch of money here and raise our tax rate to the point where businesses start getting scared off. So, and I think we've done a great job here in Ottawa County, but we're on the brink of having to bond more money, and I don't know what that would do to the business market of Ottawa. That's my only ask.
Well, and we have a large logging industry in our area too. I will say that. And, for example, Silver Ridge Road, we just did that last term, and they logged an area in there, and I mean it tore it up. I mean, I'm talking about huge potholes where we had to go in and cut out sections of the road and refix those, and so it drives up your maintenance costs so high. And as far as you being able to catch people that on a local level that are not going within the weight limit, that's not something that we have a hard time keeping them in the route that we're asking them to go. So that is a concern. We want the forest farmers to be able to get their products out. That's good economy growth, but that's one of the things I know with District 4 that we really struggle with.
Have you been in communication with Pickering to talk about how the administration has changed? And when we submit for the RAISE grant, it's going to be quite different, or some add-ons, either some add-ons that haven't been thought of, maybe by Pickering, to add on, maybe the way, the type of way we fuse vehicles along that pathway. Will we use regular gas, or will we use some other form of energy along that pathway? And I'm just throwing this out as an example. It seems like the wording is going to have to change.
Yes, sir. That's clear, and I think in the debrief call, and Orlando, you were on it the whole time, that Mr. Hill with the U.S. Department of Transportation gave a lot of good guidance on how he thinks that this new application's got to change. I'm going to have a follow-up conversation with them on the way home to talk about just to make sure that they're on top of that. Obviously, they're leading the charge on that, but I will. I'll make sure to broach that with them today.
I felt like they did traffic counts and stuff on that road before I think they did a lot of data on you're talking about Pickering's on the, I don't know what the engineering firm on that field grant.
Okay.
We appreciate you. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
I look forward to hearing from everybody once you get a chance to go through this, and I'm happy to answer any questions and get working with our team directly on that.
We're glad to have you, but in conclusion, I think that it's important that we know who's working on what project.
Yes, sir.
And if you will continue to work with us and keep us aware of who's moving forward in that kind of communication, so we won't drop the ball and miss the deadline. And be able to apply in a way that we will be able to acquire funds.
Yes, sir.
We'll stay in communication with you.
Thank you, and there's no way to deny the success that y'all have had for Tippah County so far. I mean, in the last several years, the amount of funding, whether it be for buses or anything else, there's no denying how y'all have helped us, and we're very grateful. Thank you.
We're grateful to get a chance to work with you guys.
We could not thank you because you're doing a great job, so keep up the good work out there.
Thank you, sir. Y'all have a good day.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda. Well, we're gonna, we would pause with the agenda just for a few minutes. I think there have been 3 individuals that have been with us today that have been very instrumental in acquiring funds and working hard for us at the state level. And we are honored to have a state senator, but we're also honored to have a state representative with us today who serves as our board attorney, but he is our state representative. We know how hard he works for us. So we want to pause just for a few minutes to let him give us some update from them.
I won't say much more than what's been said already. The people that we've got working for us are doing a good job. One of the things that I want to make certain that we kind of keep our eye on the ball, we do have an opportunity coming down the pike. We've got this $9 million coming in. We really can't use it for a lot of different things. There's probably a couple of things that we can use it for, but I just want us to be very careful as to not cut that money into so many spots that you don't have the impact that I think that all of us want for the future. I think that we've got an opportunity to get this one of our projects. I don't think that we're going to get the $25 or $30 million project with the building, and that's just a shot in the dark with the money that I'm hearing that this building may end up costing us. But the fact that we do have a health department and other things that are tied into this, I do think it gives us that opportunity to give this board a start with something. Gosh, y'all, I'm 53 years old, and I've never seen a board with a bigger opportunity than we currently have. This is probably the largest chunk of money that's been laid in front of us in a long time, and this board's going to get to decide where it goes, what we do with it, and how it's spent. And I don't know that we could have a better group of people that have a vision for what they want to see happen and move forward. And from my standpoint as state representative, this just is thrilling to me. Y'all are on the cusp of being able to change not just Tippah County, not just Starkville, but this whole side of the community with what we decide to do with this. And I just think it's a great opportunity for y'all. I know that we have road needs, and I know that those are, honestly, those are needs that are going to be over and over and over again. But this opportunity in the next few years, and maybe coming up with a 10 or 15 or 20 year plan as to how to put this project together and make it make sense for us, y'all, it's exciting. I don't know of any other time in my life I have seen this opportunity.
When you look at this and you even think about your extension service and how many of these categories right here listed that they serve for our local community, and if we had a better resource for them to work out of, you know, how many of these topics could they really fall up underneath? So I think that I agree with you. I think there's a lot of opportunity.
Well, I'm just really excited, and I think that for the first time in my life, I honestly see a pathway for y'all. It's exciting, and it's for our community. Not just y'all, but it's exciting. I do think that we're going to continue to have road issues, and we're going to continue to have these types of things. But this board is probably as well equipped to tackle this situation and put future boards in a place that y'all weren't put in. If you think about this, y'all, if some of this stuff had been worked on in 1968 when I was born, we wouldn't be dealing with some of these things today. We would be well on our way in a direction. So I'm very excited to be a part of working not only as your board attorney, but as your state representative. And I think I'm just blessed to be born at this time and be a part of this at this time. So thank you. I want to thank you for letting me be a part of that. So this is a big deal, and for the general public out there, this is a big deal. So don't really, I don't want anybody to minimize the impact that this board will have over the course of the next 10, 20, 30 years. So thank you.
Thank you,
Representative Roberts. We appreciate, we know how hard you work for us at the state level and how you provide information to us on the federal level too. We're happy to have you as our board attorney and as a state representative present with us often. With everything has been said in relation to the building, I've been told that Major and Ashford want to address the board on May 17th and give us an update on where they are at, so we can move forward with trying to get our thoughts together in relation to the bills, the countywide bill. Ms. Emily shakes her head on that, so I'm sure she'll put them on the agenda to have them to give us an update. Major and Ashford. Moving forward, community counseling, Ms. Warren and Taylor, are you present? Thank you for being with us.
Thank you for giving us the opportunity to be with you to express appreciation for all the clients in Octavia County and all the employees for the services that you all provide. Nationally, May is Mental Health Month, but you all know every day is Mental Health Month. So we are appreciative of what you're doing for the citizens in our county and our employees. Mr. Dugan, our executive director, is in medical appointments today, and he is missing board meetings, I think, in 3 of our counties. And today, Ms. Taylor is with us. You all have in your packet the economic impact statement of the 7 counties in regional mental health for the communities that we live in. Also in your packet is a listing of the services that we provide and something about the local county itself. As is true with all the agencies and organizations and citizens and families and children today, our agency successfully continued services during the virus that we have. And Ms. Taylor is going to share with you all how our agency successfully kept our services open in meeting the needs of families and individuals in our communities. And you all will know from my long experience in social work practice, I always say individuals, families, and communities, you cannot have one without all 3 combined. And so we are appreciative of what you all provide for us and the services that maintain for the clients, and also for what you do for our employees. So Ms. Taylor is going to present to you what we have successfully done. I wasn't involved in that, in meeting the needs of community members through the virus that we have all experienced. Taylor? No, I'll speak right here.
So just to start off, I've been with community counseling next month to be 29 years, but they just moved me, which I live in Starkville, so yay, they moved me back here in October to be the county administrator here, but I was currently at that time the Columbus County Administrator, then the Clay County Administrator, the Winston County Administrator, because when you're there a long time, you move and do what you need. So just to kind of tell you and to feed off what Ms. Margot said, May is Mental Health Month, but I always like to remind everybody we all have mental health like we all have physical health. And this past year, I know mine's been challenged, but our mental health has been challenged with gotta wear a mask and you've got to distance things. And for me being a supervisor, yes, we take care of the community, but I was making sure to take care of my staff. So it's like every day, take your temperature, do this. If you have a temperature, go home, go get checked. we're okay with that. You want to go get a vaccine, take time from work, go get your vaccine if you want a vaccine. To as extreme as you've lost a family member to COVID, so trying to help and support them with that while we're out there trying to maintain our mental health and help the community maintain theirs. Our crisis program is probably the one that's been the busiest this past year because there were a lot of people who went into a mental health crisis that never had them before. They lost their job. They're at home all day with their kids. They're at home all day with their spouse or their significant other. They have a family member that's ill with COVID or a family member or friend that passed away from COVID. So 24/7, I supervise that program. I get a text headed to the ER. Our coordinator of that program spent a lot of time masked up in the ER. She went where she was needed. So we kept that going, still going. It doesn't cost anybody, and the numbers on the front of your bag there, anybody can call that. Their experience with that, there's no charge, no cost. It doesn't matter who you are, where you are, if they need to come to you, unless it's a situation that's not safe. And they do sometimes go out with law enforcement as long as the situation's safe with that. So that's available. We did keep our buildings open, but smaller numbers being allowed to come in, trying to space the time for appointments. Again, take your temperature, wear a mask, all those safety things. The day programs for children and youth, we continue to run those, and for adults and seniors, just smaller groups. And some were uncomfortable coming anyway, so we weren't forcing anyone. But, you know, some of the seniors come, one thing, yes, they're coming to get mental health services, but they get a hot meal with us every day, and they get a snack with us every day. We may help in between breaks, run and help them get their prescriptions picked up and things like that. So, you know, it was really important to be able to continue to do those in a safe environment for those individuals. There are individuals that have to get injections, so I mean, you can't do that telehealth or through a phone call. So we continue to make sure they have their injections. We run an in-house pharmacy. We allow them to be there. They're not our employees, but they work with us. So, you know, individuals still need their medicine, so they would go drop it safely off at their home or mail it to their home if they needed that. And one good thing our staff were allowed to do for individuals who did not want them coming in their home, did not want to come in our office, that they could do telehealth, or if they had the availability, Zoom. Our doctors did a lot of Zoom calls. So we've tried to do everything we could to continue to meet needs while staying safe. Also, I'm proud to say, with the exception of we had to close our bakery in West Point, we had to lay 2 people off. We were able to maintain all our staff, even though we had less numbers and we did have less revenue coming in, but it's starting to pick up now. Last week, I think every day I had 5 or 6 people calling wanting services. It is picking way back up for us in all the other counties. So I have a feeling in the next 6 months to a year, we're going to be adding positions back. Now, if somebody left, we may not have filled it, but we did not lay anybody off in any programs. So we're busy, we're open. Our contact information's on there. If you need anything, you can call me. Sometimes the person that may get on the phone may not know something, so even if I don't know it, if you get to me, I'm going to find an answer for you. So just to know, we still do pick up in the community if it's someone that goes to our program, drop off, so transportation for them. Homelessness, which I heard somebody else mention earlier, was a big need that picked up this past year, trying to help people, and there's just, we as county administrators have to go to the commissioners board meetings and speak, and now we're like, needs, every person that calls, and they're like, needs housing, 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 especially for if it's more than 2 people in the house, because our housing is a single person housing. We don't have anything for a mom and her kids and that kind of thing. And then we had more people that we had to help connect to Safe Haven in Columbus. You saw more domestic violence with people just being at home together, more kids getting in trouble because they couldn't go do their coping skills of visiting their friends and playing sports. But again, we're seeing that get better, so yay for all that. And then we have our MAP team which is called Making a Plan Team, and we do have some funding if it's a child in our services. And say the parent lost their job, we did do a lot of one-time helping pay an electric bill, and maybe they were way behind and we were able to help pay that, or maybe they needed to move someplace safer and we were able to pay a deposit for them, or maybe their kids needed something for school and they lost their job, and so we were able to buy some uniforms and things like that. So we do have that out there too.
Y'all do a great job. I had no idea until I toured and what all you do. And I don't think a lot of people in the community really understand everything that y'all do. Y'all offer so many services. It sure looks like there's a lot of opportunities too for funding in the future. So.
Right, and we do try to work on getting grants. I know how to write them. I can do them and usually do well in getting them, but it's not something I want to do 24/7. But so we try to find those opportunities because we don't want someone to go without because of funding. And I do tell staff we've got several things for kids. I don't want to ever hear anyone ever say a kid could not get services because of money with that. So, and even adults we have, like the crisis program, if they go through that and they need services and they don't have a payer, we'll help pay for services, getting them started with that. So, do y'all have any questions? No?
Thank you so much.
Well, you're welcome. We're not perfect, but we'll do the best we can. And we do have a proclamation that we wanted to get you to sign, if you don't mind. And I'm going to take a picture of you sign it. And our crisis numbers on there, and our office numbers. Stephanie Taylor is my name, so if you need anything, I may not always be there, but I have voicemail and those kind of things. So you can call me at any time that you need anything or have any questions. We do training. There's just so many different opportunities. Drug and alcohol, that was one of our other areas that our inpatient and drug and alcohol department, at one point, they were getting 80 calls a day. Because a lot of people, that became their coping skill when they couldn't do anything else. So, anyway, if you need anything, just let me know. And we appreciate you allowing us.
Thank you for everything that you do for our county, and we are more than happy to sign the Mental Health Month proclamation.
And we thank you for signing. And like Ms. Margo said, every month we need every day address mental health. But this is just a month that we'll put a little more out there and do. Like I'm gonna have a group.
I've been busier in this time. I know
it's been really picking up a lot, and for like Mental Health Month, we have the little community pantries and little community libraries, so we're going to go around and put some stuff and information in those, and already have staff that go around and volunteer and help stock those and those kind of things. So anyway, if you need anything, just let me know.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We do need two motions, I believe. Motion to approve the proclamation that we just signed. Motion for approval by Supervisor Montgomery, second by Supervisor Miller. All in favor? I need another motion, 5-0 motion, pass 5-0. I need another motion acknowledging the presentation coming from Community Council. Motion by Supervisor Miller, second by Supervisor Montgomery. All in favor? Motion carries 5-0.
The members of the board, the county officials, thank you all. And Miss Emily, we wish you a safe and happy retirement.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
We missed some motions and all presentations, I believe. Senator Bob Williams. Senator Austin Barber, can we get a motion on both of those? Motion by Supervisor Montgomery, second by Supervisor Miller. that we acknowledge the presentation coming from Senator Bart Williams and Representative, not Representative, Austin Barton. All in favor? Aye. Motion carries 5-0. Moving forward, grant application. Youth Court is next. Would you please come forward?
Let me move this one back out.
Hey, good morning.
Good morning. I wanted to talk to you just a little bit about the youth court budget, specifically for youth detention. You graciously gave me an increase last year, and I want to tell you that I haven't used it all. That's good news. But as you know, we've been having some serious juvenile issues, and particularly with these handguns.
Yes.
I try to be very judicious in how I spend the county's money. And it is very expensive to use detention. It costs about $175 a night, and that's a lot of money. However, we have gotten to the point, I think, that I'm going to have to use it more than I've been using it in the past. We have a number of youths right now who have not even come to youth court because of the severity of their gun crimes. They've gone straight to circuit court. I haven't even seen them. They've bypassed me. Captain Watson is going to talk to you in a little bit. He may be able to give you some more information about that. But there are a number of people in a juvenile age that are in the county jail over here. There are also a number of juveniles who have guns in their possession but have not done anything directly with them. But I'm concerned about 15 and 16-year-olds with guns that they've stolen and what they might do. So I'm going to step up the use of detention for those kids. Detention is not penal for the youth court. It's not like jail. It's there to protect the child from themselves, protect them from others, and protect our community. And in a lot of ways, I think these children need to be protected from other children who also have guns. And so I'm happy to tell you that I'm financially doing better than I thought I would. Ms. Emily has given me my stats, and I've really only used about 1/3 of the budget that you gave me for juvenile detention. But I just want you to know that there's probably going to be an uptick. There are a number of groups in the county and the city who are working on this issue and trying to find a way to make things better. But you know, like we talked last year when I came and talked about my budget, a lot of this is parenting or lack of parenting. And so a lot of it, by the time people get to be 15, 16, you know, that's pretty well gone. You know, any parenting that could be helpful, that opportunity has passed. So I just want to try to protect our children who are using guns and who have guns in their possession. And I want to protect us from them. So I just wanted you to know, in case you hear talk about it, that I am probably going to be utilizing detention more than I have in the past. It's not something that I like to do, and it's not very cost effective, I'm afraid. But it is a way to take a minor who's had a gun and has been in a fight with another minor who's had a gun. It's a way to take them and get them someplace where at least they've settled down. You know, in detention, there isn't a lot to do. You gotta go to school, you have counseling, but at night, you just sit around and think.
Well, is there an opportunity while they're in detention to have an outside constructive project that is a benefit to the community? And, you know, everybody knows where I'm going with this. You know, helping clean up the highways and the roads. I mean, I'm just asking, is there because that is something they could certainly take pride in doing, you know, and it could be a supervised activity. Is there an opportunity to have some programs like that, which would be a need for the community too, but be something that they would be a part of to making our community better?
Well,
I don't see it so much as a punishment for them, but
Yeah.
as something that you've accomplished this, you've done something good. And I'm just asking.
Now, we don't have a juvenile detention center in Ottumwa County. So if that were done, it would be done in other counties would have clean roads and
Okay.
streets. We don't have one. There's a very limited facility in Columbus, and the Lee County system has recently closed. So we are going as far away as Alcorn and as far south as around Hattiesburg, because they have larger facilities and they are more willing to take out of county people. We've had a lot of trouble with COVID. A lot of detention centers simply closed their doors to anybody who wasn't a member of their county. But I think there are 1,000 things that you could do like that. It's just not within our purview because we don't have a detention center.
Gotcha.
Let me talk on a couple of things. And Lord knows we've got problems with youth and weapons, handguns, and things of that nature. But some of our problem is other youth coming from other counties. Case in point, McKee Park. I think those youth were from Knoxville County. We've had youth coming in from Lowndes County that's causing a ton of problems here in Ottumwa County. How do you stop that? I don't know. But that being said, as I stated earlier, we've got problems right here with our youth. And, you know, what Supervisor Miller mentioned about putting them out there and picking up paper or something, punishing them, that's great. But I've talked over the years and talked about a program that's called Youth Bill. I don't know if you're familiar with this program, but it's a very, very successful program. And I think this is a program that the county should get behind and try to bring in here. Youth Bill is a program that works like this. It addresses at-risk teens from ages 12 up to 18 or 19 years old. What it is a program. They have to have so many hours of education, in class education, along with so many hours of it's mainly a building trade, electrical work, carpentry work, plumbing work. And they have so many hours in the classroom, then they have so many hours studying that trade. And in the meantime, once they do this, they go out into dilapidated areas. There's a salary attached with this. They go out and they refurbish dilapidated housing, clean up areas. And so it accomplishes quite a few things. It gets them some education, it gets them off the street, it teaches them a trade, it puts money in their pocket, and it cleans up dilapidated neighborhoods. And this is a youth bill that I've actually contacted down in Greenwood. That's the closest one here. And I've contacted them to come down and just visit their program and how it's set up to be able to bring some information back. But I've watched this program and I've studied this program for 10 years. I even asked about it when the last time I was in Washington, D.C. asked about it. It's a very, very successful program, and it does wonders for the youth and pulling them out of that cycle that they're in. And I think that's something that this board, the community, should really look into and see about possibly bringing that here in Ottumwa County.
That's a wonderful idea. I think another thing that it would give would be some self-esteem to the people who are going through it. And I think in a lot of ways, a lot of our children don't have a lot of self-esteem and don't do really good in school, and therefore don't go to school very because they don't do well, they don't succeed there. And I think anything like that would be very helpful. Right now, we are using 3 programs that we've developed over the last year and a half. One of those is a thing called the Peace Initiative, and it's out of Emerson Family School, and it is parenting, and then from parenting it takes them on into helping them get a job or do skills, and they have some funds for that. So I'm sending parents there. Then we have the Leadership Academy with J.L. King, and that's a 3-week program, and it helps children by tutoring them, finding out where they are. You know, they might be an 8th grader, but they might read at a 2nd grade level or something, finding out where they are and trying to tutor them, and also giving them some leadership skills, and also doing some psychological work with them as a group. The other thing we're doing, and you graciously funded this, is that the Mississippi State Department of Psychology is doing assessments on these juveniles, and sometimes on their parents, to see where they are, what their problems really are, and whether or not there's assistance available that they can afford, that they could get through community counseling or something like that. You know, obviously, we can't provide psychological assistance for everybody who needs it. We'd all be getting it, you know. But it does at least give us the opportunity to see what the problems are, because that way maybe we can help focus these children in the direction that they need to go. So we really are working at it, but I think that the issues with the guns have sort of suddenly, I won't say overpowered us, but they've suddenly developed. A year ago, I wasn't seeing this many guns with minors. It's happened this year, and it may be because kids haven't been going to school. I don't know what the cause of it is, but I know that there's an increase. And so I just wanted y'all to know that that your detention funds may be used a little more. I'm going to try not to run over my budget, but because I'm aware of that. I mean, that's an expensive thing to do. But I feel like separating kids at a time when they can't go out and play after supper, like can't do video games, they have to think. I mean, they're just sitting in a room, they have to think. And, you know, sometimes I think that helps them focus on what they've done and how they want to live the rest of their lives. I hope it does. Anyway, but I wanted
How they don't want to live the rest of their lives.
How they don't want to live the rest of their lives. I've never had anybody, and I always ask, how did you like detention? And they always tell me they didn't like it at all. And I had one kid who came back from detention, and he'd written me a letter. And what he said was, I didn't have anything to do while I was there except my studies. And I was just thinking that maybe I didn't want to come back here anymore. And I realized that the way not to come back here was not to hang around with my friends that I've been hanging around with, which is, you know, that's something. Sure. And I never saw that kid back in youth court, so maybe that helped. But I just wanted to talk to you about that because I know that word gets out in the community, and we have been very careful not to use detention very much for our children. But I think we're at a point we're going to have to use it more.
Judge, have you seen any opportunities to reach out, or any of the churches, anybody reach out to help after these kids leave to help them with mentoring programs or anything like that? Has there been anything reach out for you on that end?
We have, Chief Ballard has started a committee that y'all may be familiar with. It's been meeting every Monday night, I think. And there are a number of people involved in that committee who are interested in mentoring. And one of the things that we have to do as a youth court, if we refer them to a mentor, is we've got to do a background check on those people. Now, if Chief Ballard takes care of that, or if I don't have anything to do with it, then that's great. So I would have to have a background check to be able to refer anybody. But there is a mentoring focus in that particular group that's getting together. There is another group that I think the mayor is going to develop, and that really has to do with the possibility of getting a juvenile detention center in Starkville. That's a very expensive proposition, but it would, and it's not going to be economical. It's going to be expensive, but $175 a night is expensive. So, you know, it's just what it is. I had someone tell me the other day that what I needed to do was take these children that we picked up at night and take them to a safe house, because the parent was the part of the problem and we needed to take them to a safe house and whatever. But, you know, the juvenile justice laws are very limited, and you can't do that. When you pick up a child, you have to return them to their parents unless you're going to send them to detention. So there's not any gray area at all. You send them back home, and sometimes home is the problem, or you send them to detention. So that's how that goes. If anybody, I mean, I'm delighted if anybody has any ideas, and I do hope that Chief Ballard's mentoring program develops. But you know, that's kind of where we are right now.
Most of these guns, you say, are stolen guns.
Yes.
I'm not getting into too much of the, the penalization of the person who took that gun being a youth. But does that carry a? I mean, I don't know how you can be creative with the punishment that you put on that person to dissuade future people from stealing guns. I mean, I know a lot of people that I know have had hunting guns stolen out of their trucks at Kroger. You know what I mean? Or, you know, just family heirloom guns that are gone. You know, my dad had somebody break into his house and took 5 or 6 guns, don't know where they're at. You know what I mean? Has that gone up since you've seen a spike in that? I'm sure since no school.
I've seen a spike, and I suppose it has to do with no school. It certainly has been over the last year and a half. So.
It's been going on over a year.
Well, on that point is if the youth steals a gun, what's the? I mean, are they detained? Are they taken back home? Are they? I know you're wanting to use detention more now, but I'm saying in the past, if someone's got a stolen gun, serial number stolen, I know that's a pretty hefty penalty.
If you're an adult, it's a.
I was going to say, what's the difference in adult? I know you do time, and so that dissuades a lot of adults from stealing guns. When you're a youth and you steal gun or guns, plural, or other property, what's the difference there? I mean,
it's purposeful. What you've got is a bunch of adults that are encouraging these kids to go out here and take these guns.
And bring them back to them for a dime, for a cheap.
And sometimes these kids are put. A lot of these guns have become a part of the uniform, and when I say uniform, I mean they think they're
part of the garb.
Right, it's part of they think it's a piece of jewelry almost. But a lot of these gang wannabes have sent these children out. And these are children, y'all. It's ridiculous that we're having this conversation, but they've been encouraged to go out here and take these because the punishment is not as bad.
To my point. The reason that adults don't do it, there's punishment, there's time. I I mean, I don't want to send kids to detention. I don't want to have anybody steal guns or anything like that, but if the punishment fits the crime, then I think you have less of it. But then again, this is your world, Ms. Quarles. I'm
Well,
just trying to
The maximum penalty.
prevent this from happening and
Yes, sir.
someone with a stolen gun going and killing someone who's simply coming out of Kroger, putting groceries in their car. There's got to be a way to protect that person as well.
There
So,
does. The maximum penalty in youth court is 90 days in detention.
that should be looked at, in my opinion. So, I think, again, if there were a harsher penalty, I think you'd have less crime. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think I might be right on that too.
Judge, are you finding slots available? And how many slots are you finding available for youth in detention coming from Ottawa County? And I guess where I'm going is that, do you see a need for youth detention, our own youth detention program in Ottawa County? When those individuals cut us off and say, we're full, we can't take any more. Are you experiencing that type of encounter?
I've had a lot of, there are a number of youth detention centers in the state. And my court administrator calls them all. She has a list and she calls them all. And we've had a lot of people who don't have openings available. And our closest ones, Lowndes is, I think, going to open up, but it only has 6 beds. And they usually have that full with Lowndes County people. Tupelo's closed, so we're going further away. And that means travel time for our deputies. It means more mileage. To go up to Alcorn or to go down to Hattiesburg, I mean, that's a long way. And the other thing is that if we put a child in detention, we have to have a detention hearing within 48 hours, which means you take them up there, but within 48 hours you have to bring them back. And then if I put them in detention again, you have to go up there again. So, Rob and I have talked about the possibility of having a detention center in Ottavia County, and I would love to have one. It would be a lot easier on us, but it's going to be extremely expensive. And even though $175 a night is pretty expensive, that's probably cheaper than us developing our own juvenile detention center. I would love to have one, because I think if we did, we could do things like Brickley suggested. We could have more programs available for those kids that you don't get in some of the other facilities. They have to have a nurse at a facility like this. They have to have a psychologist at least on call. They have to have a teacher who can teach various and sundry grades because they have to go to school. They have to feed them. That's about it, And there's a lot of time that people could spend developing some other thought processes, and that if we had one, we could work on that. But there's been difficulty getting them in different detention centers.
Ms. Quarles, I know this is a monumental task that you're dealing with, and there's not one single attack point on this. It's a holistic approach, because by the time you lock them up, it's almost too late.
Yes.
If there's a way that you can, again, you mentioned something about educating the parents. It's because by the time that kid has a gun in their hand, I mean, it's too late. And for everyone you detain for 90 days, there's 5 of them just waiting. So, all I can say is, and I think so many times, for whatever reason, the board of supervisors is available and willing to help, but for whatever reason, it seems that we're not contacted, I guess, so many times to participate in mentoring programs and things of that nature. But I can speak for me and say that I'm available if any of the people that's putting together some of these programs need some help. You know, I'm available to help.
Thank you. I'm gonna tell Chief Ballard that, and he may give you a call.
And we can see your passion to help the youth. I mean, we see that when you come to us, and we want to support you in the ways that we can. And we know that you put them in detention as a last resort, but we understand that you need to protect the youth too, and this may drive the cost up from themselves and from others, and we certainly understand that need.
And I think that you're going to hear Captain Watson a little later today about a juvenile curfew. And I did not initiate that idea, but I have read the draft of his resolution. I think it's a wonderful idea, and I think it's so good that I called the mayor and asked her to see if she could do something similar. And I think that they're going to approve a juvenile curfew in their first June meeting. The thing that is good about that is that it's a reason to stop a minor during certain hours of the evening. And if you stop a minor for a good reason, curfew violation, then you often find handguns and things like that, drugs, and it's a good way to isolate minors and get them off the street. So I would encourage you to think favorably about the curfew. I think it could be helpful in this particular.
And it doesn't just move from one location to the other. It actually helps them get them where they need to be. So I agree.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Is it hot?
Yes,
Oh, it is hot.
Oh, it's a Monday, you can.
This is not weather for bad boys at all.
It's warm, it ain't hot.
Yeah, I was with them on the
From heat to air?
Hey Rob, is there anything on the state level
It's just
to up the penalty on, I mean, I know it's a juvenile, but to give that option?
the problem you have is even if you have it, nobody wants to do it because it's so expensive. That's the issue.
I thought we put it on there.
Oh, I feel it now. So I get it.
We're suing somebody else.
Turn it on?
Give me an idea.
Well, let me just say this, I know it's expensive, but in my opinion, the problem's never gonna be fixed until you, if I know stealing this water right here, somebody's just gonna say, don't steal that next one.
She just cut, it just came out.
If I steal that, I go serve a year in prison, I'm gonna tell you, I'm gonna tell you, don't ever steal a gun. You know what I mean?
Part of the problem you're running into is, like she said, the kids are not really the problem. It's that one level up
I
that
get
is
it.
raising.
But if that way they would have no customer, they would have nobody to do their bidding.
If we were going to spend $5,250 per month on each individual kid, and that's in the current Senate and somewhere else, I don't know that.
It's sad. It's sad to say that to try to fix a problem. You know what I mean? So we didn't worry about that. How you gonna fix the problem? You just have to keep talking about it.
If we have a juvenile detention center
B.
and it's big enough,
Are we gonna sign
other
these?
counties can come in and
Signature first month?
There's a reason Tupelo shut down and Lowndes is so small is that these other counties don't want to spend the money either. It's not just whether or not we think it's a priority, which I think we do. I think each one of us understands this problem, and I think the bulk of us really even understand it from the standpoint of these are children that we don't want to see go down this road. But we as a society have to decide that that we're all going to be on the same page, because if we're having to, if it's children from Knoxville County that are coming over here creating some problems, or Lowndes County from creating problems, these are some of their problems too. But no one has taken this project on and looked at it from the totality of let's try to figure out what a solution would be and move forward with it. And when you look at $5,000, keep in mind $5,250 for one kid. That doesn't include the
Well, you gotta realize, why are the taxpayers paying for that? Why not put that on that person, that you?
They're not paying these people that we're talking about, generally speaking, aren't paying anything. They're more than likely aren't paying taxes unless they're paying it through sales tax sometimes. These aren't the people that are in this room.
I get it, but I'm saying, at some point, you've got to punish this, or it's just gonna keep escalating the way it has now. And I don't care if it's a 10-year-old with a gun in his hand, if they shoot you, you're dead. You know?
Well, I want to say this. They have a community advocacy meeting next Monday at 5:30. I've been to several. Everybody is board is invited. Public members is invited. It'll be 5:30 next Monday at Straw High School in the auditorium.
Sounds good. I'll be there.
It'll be next at 5:30 on I guess it'll be 10th.
Straw High School.
Straw High School auditorium. Community advocacy group. That's the group that she was referring to. Led by the police chief and also other community groups.
We just make us pick the whole bottom points on our own like this and try to fix it, figure out what's going on.
Yeah, but my way of fixing it is from the front end. Instead of playing defense, we need to play offense. We need to invest in programs on the front end because there's no way you can keep up the back end.
I say do both.
Well, the back end gonna take care of itself. We need to be focusing on the front end. That's what we neglected and gone short. That's why we got such a problem. You know, that's why we got such a problem. Because see, the defense, we're not gonna be able to spend enough money to keep up with it. We're gonna have to slow it from the front end and deal with it. We're gonna have to invest in some programs. And I'll take a perfect case in point. We have a program that we have partnered with Parker Washington, my brother's keeper. And it was a good program. And I was doing it, and we still were doing it. We kind of slacked off after the pandemic. Lo and behold, I'm thinking one of the guys that was in my program, I think it's one of the guys that got down the hill locked up there. And what I'm saying is that that's no fault on him, that's no fault on you. I fault myself more so because what happens is sometimes we think that those programs don't make a difference because they may not be generating enough attention or people think we're not doing anything. But then when you don't do them and then you have a problem, you're trying to respond and you can't respond. You can't spend enough money to curtail that. We all know that it does stem from the parents. Why does it stem from the parents? Because you got a lot of parents out there who are not in a position to be the kind of parents they need because it has come from other things that they're dealing with. So we got to start focusing on the symptoms. We got to focus on what the real problem is. The real problem is that each one of us has a responsibility to others, trying to look at the bigger picture. And I'm not saying you get a bunch of money and lock a bunch of people up because there's no way you can do that. There's no way we can afford to send every kid. Oh, I guess we could, but it's going to take taxpayers' dollars to make it happen. So each one of us has a responsibility. Sometimes we don't want to take, and I'm just as guilty. You know, I'm kind of upset now, and I'm not upset with y'all. I'm upset with myself because I'm thinking about things that you could do, but you say, well, it ain't my problem. That ain't my child. It ain't my neighborhood.
Well, I get that.
You see?
But then what about the person that had something stolen from them? They're the last person to be considered. And because...
But why do people steal? Why would I steal this bottle of water?
Because you want it.
I may need to drink because I'm dying of thirst.
Well, but
have you ever thought about that?
You need a gun.
Well, I'm not saying, but you got to look at the root cause of why they're doing what they're doing.
I think it's a lack of training in the home.
Well, we need to focus on investing in parenting training programs.
Can't duplicate parenting.
Well, we don't do anything. We're going to hell in a head, man.
No, and I'm not saying that we should. I agree with you, but how do you go?
How
do you go in and diplomatically tell a parent they're not a good parent?
Well, first of all,
have you ever tried to even correct a child at an event when a parent's sitting there and they're doing something they're not supposed to do? So, you know, you've got to get past that point.
You got to bend the sapling while it's young. You can't wait until they get 13 and 14 years old and think you're ready.
I'm not saying...
And then you got to create an environment. But
there's going to be some that do what they've just done. They've stolen. And
you got to give people an opportunity.
You know, that's actually brilliant. What you both are talking about. You remember when we were kids, whenever, if Miss Sarah down the street called me and my fellow little hoodlums riding our bikes, throwing rocks at cars, what'd she do?
Call our parents.
You doggone right. Or she came out with a switch and started swinging it. We're going to have to come back and be willing to be that kind of community that's willing to go and start taking care of
Otherwise,
these kids.
I had a cousin, okay, in Memphis. Him, 2 children, a wife, coming home from work one day, stopped at a red light, guy shot him in the side of the head, pulled him out, took his truck, 400 yards down the road, his truck's on fire, and his wallet sitting right next to him. He's dead. You know what I mean? At a certain point, you gotta punish people for a crime. Never caught anybody. But they know it was youth, gang-related stuff.
But we also got to focus on the reason why people commit crime. It's a higher meaning behind it. We can't build enough jails. We can't have enough police force. We can't patrol. We can't have enough cameras around town trying to watch people what they're doing.
Some of these people that we're seeing in juvenile court have mental issues.
Right. I mean, we got to
That's not
focus on
getting taken care of, because once they get out of being under 18 and everything, we're seeing these same people in lunacy courts where we're having to submit.
I'm just telling you, part of the problem is there's not enough penalty. It doesn't match the crime. That's not penalty. You know, I know we can't fix it all in the back end, but the way you can fix it in the front end is if somebody's 16, 17 years old and they get treated like an adult, then that's going to spill over to the younger kids to say, hey, I'm not doing that. I'm not going to jail for a year or whatever.
If they have mental issues, like that.
You know, this is an argument that can be, well, not an argument, discussion that can be
Let's get back
had.
on the agenda.
We always say that it's the parents. But if the parents could do better, they would do better with their children. These children have a greater influence on them than what the parents have. When they get of a particular age, 13, 14, regardless of what the parents say, there's an outside force out there. There are older children that are influencing our children to do bad. And those older children have a greater influence on those young children than what their parents have. And regardless of what parents say, when they go outside, so we need to address some of the, I hate to say it, but something similar to gang related. Something similar to gang related activities that influence kids to come along and do what they're doing and support some type of activity that they want to support. So there's a bigger picture than just parents not doing what they're doing. There's a bigger picture than that.
There's not one silver bullet.
There's not one silver bullet.
It's not.
Let's move forward. And all of us can do something. One of the problems too is that some of these children don't have income. So you can take some of them under your arm and give them some type of work to do. They're not requiring a whole lot when they're 13 and they're 12 years old, and that's when they get started. When they're 12, when they're 13, they're looking for income. So some of these older guys can give them $5, $6, $10 that you could have given $5, $6, $10 for cleaning up around the house or something like that. That's what I do. So each one take one maybe. That might help. Which one of us? Let's ask ourselves. How many of us are mentoring a child? How many of us are willing to take 3, 4, 5 children to help out? Okay. Let's think about what we can do as individuals. Moving forward. Grant application, Ms. Campanella.
She's behind you on the screen.
Okay. All right, Ms. Campanella, can you get one more?
No.
You're muted.
We can hear.
No, questions, I'm
Volume
good.
down.
You know, keep the volume is down.
Volume down.
I have to sign up.
Here now.
I'm telling you, that youth peer program, that's a great program.
Yeah.
Super great program, I'm telling you. Because fact of the matter, you got criminals from the poorest of the poor family to the most affluent.
Lack of discipline is the key.
They have,
It's just, yeah.
do they have a chapter in there, or you have to have another organization sponsor?
Next time I get married, I
There's a program out there, you can apply on the grant funded.
I ain't getting married. I'm so kidding.
West Alabama.
I'm gonna show you how to change a micro.
Was that her? You can teach them skills, then you can go out in the community. Skills. Take them to the community, you pay them for their hours. So you, I mean, it's.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Turn on the screen.
It's man.
While we waiting, can I get a motion to acknowledge, the presentation, presentation was made from, youth court.
So
Motion by Supervisor Trainer, second by Supervisor Howard, to acknowledge the presentation from youth court. All in favor?
Can we move? No, while we're waiting on that.
I was gonna say, approve her request, I don't think we have any problem with it.
You got any problem with that,
Grant application approved.
Yeah.
I so moved.
And we have to do a, order to allow her to sign for the county.
Motion for approval, all those grant applications, you had the opportunity to look at them, they all are worthwhile, and they all are needed, throughout Maven, Sturgis, and all over the county, so, motion by Supervisor Trainer, second by Supervisor Howard, that we approve all of those grant applications that are presented for request from Mr. Campanella. All in favor? Motion carries 5-0, I'm sure. We'll talk to, Supervisor Miller when he comes back.
Hey, she see, look, there's a little thing down there that says she's muted, see? Bottom left. See?
Yeah, she's not muted.
She should be ready now.
She's ready.
Yep, there we
Yeah. Okay. Good morning.
Morning.
Afternoon.
Yes.
Happy Marriage Day.
I'll be quick with my project. So y'all have all of my paperwork that I put in your packet. We talked a couple months ago about after every disaster, there's hazard mitigation funds that's available for different projects. So I think it was after the winter storm week when we talked briefly about putting in a wish list for different items just to kind of see what would stick. So last week, right before we left, I got a notification that all the ones that I had put in were approved, which is first time ever. Normally I put in these wish lists after disasters and we only maybe get one or two things. So what we were approved for was for sirens for every county fire station, and then 2 safe rooms. So there would be one for the town of Maven and one for the town of Sturgis.
Awesome.
These full applications are due on May the 11th. So that's why I was coming to y'all today to make sure that y'all still want to proceed with the full application, because they'll be due next week.
We've already approved.
Everybody except Supervisor Miller, and I'm sure she,
Are they
everybody else
funded?
voted in favor of why you were out.
Okay.
So it's hazard mitigation funding, so it is reimbursed grant funding. So you will have to pay for these projects up front and then get reimbursed 75%. So what we have is for the sirens for town of Maven, Sturgis, Central Fire Department, District 5, Bell Schoolhouse, East, and then the Sturgis Fire Department on Craig Spring Station. Now, I will tell you that I talked to her right before I left, and there is some still available money for more sirens because they're in a separate pot of money. So if we wanted to add maybe 2 or 3 more for those substations for those county fire departments, we could do that also. What the amounts that we approved for was around 30 for each siren and around $1 million for each safe ring. Now, we don't have to spend that money. That's just what we got approved for. I mean, we can spend up to that. If we spend more than that, that's fine, but we're only going to get to 75% of what we were approved. So what I need is if everybody's good to move forward. Now, I will give this same presentation for Maven and Sturgis, and I guess that's what I need from y'all is to tell me how you want to proceed with their sirens and their safe rooms. Because the grant money usually flows through the county, or if y'all want the towns to reimburse y'all that 20% back, or if y'all would like for me to set Maven and Sturgis up as their own entity, and I can do that because we do that with the public assistance process, that they can sign up as their own applicant and then be responsible for their payment, and then the money would come straight to me. I just need for y'all to tell me how y'all want me to do it.
I think the county would have.
Well, I don't think Maven or Sturgis. I know Sturgis with us as a board funding, helping to support just to keep their library open every year, and helping them with support, giving them, furnishing them police cars and things like that that have been used in Tippahawk County. I don't think that they can afford their sirens. I think that that's something that we need to take on ourselves.
That's a motion.
Yeah.
Motion
If that's okay. Well, I don't want to speak for Maven.
Oh, I was just thinking to say it. Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say.
Second by Supervisor Trainer, that we would not put that burden on Maven and Sturgis. Reimbursement. All in favor? Motion carries.
So not put the burden on, but I would like for you to visit with both of those communities and find out what they are thinking.
I think they're going to be fine with that. With y'all taking that on. So if y'all just, I'm barely here, but is that just for the sirens, or are y'all going to move forward with the safe room as well?
Both of those items are so very important for safety. I would say let's just move forward with both of them.
Motion by Supervisor Trainer, second. Motion by Supervisor Howard, second by Supervisor Trainer, that we move forward with both of those grant applications, including safe room. Let's include safe room. All in favor? Motion carries 5-0.
Alright, so we have 7 sirens, 2 safe rooms. I forgot to mention, so we also have a Cheat-Tree courthouse generator. We were approved for around 50, I think, for that one.
Courthouse generator.
So move.
Motion by Supervisor Howard, second by Supervisor Montgomery, for the courthouse generator. All in favor? Motion carries 5-0.
Now, that's for 7 sirens. Do y'all want me to put in those 3 substation sirens? Or just move forward with what we've got? Because like I mentioned right before I left, she said there is some still available funding in that siren pot of money. Do y'all want to go ahead and try to hit those 2, or just go with what we got?
Motion by Supervisor Trainer, second by Supervisor Montgomery, that we move forward with the grant for the substations also. All in favor? Motion carries 5-0.
And y'all may have done this when we were trying to get the sound together, but did y'all authorize me as the representative to sign this paperwork and to complete these applications? That was in those 2 forms that I gave y'all
Motion by
copies of.
Supervisor Trainer, second by Supervisor Howard, that Ms. Campanella is authorized to sign. All in favor? Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Great job. Thank you. Thank you so much. Have a great wedding.
Thank you. I appreciate
Congratulations.
it.
Now we need the groom.
Now we need the groom on there. Yeah. They're getting married today.
He's coming tonight.
Tonight.
Good couple. Good couple.
There he is.
The groom.
We'll say the other half.
Haven't run away
That's right, we're both still here.
Okay, you may proceed, we waiting for your, information about the, juvenile curfew. Juvenile curfew?
Yes, sir. So this is something that we've been talking about for a long time. As when y'all enacted the countywide curfew in relation to COVID and such things a few months ago, we saw at the Sheriff's Department kind of an ancillary benefit in that when we were able to encounter people in a way that we hadn't done before, we were able to cut down on some of our auto burglaries and some of the things that were going on out in the county. With the idea that at some point, we know that curfew is going to end, we thought it would be in the county's best interest to bring this juvenile curfew ordinance to you for consideration. You know, when the judge was speaking earlier, she talked to you about the problems that we've had with gun crimes recently. Everybody's seen it. Everybody's seen it on the news. Everybody's heard about it in their own community. And the number of juveniles that are involved, particularly in those crimes. What we're seeing in the county a lot is auto burglaries in particular, where firearms have been taken. And a lot of times those firearms are turning up in the hands of the juveniles that are committing crimes in other parts of the county. Whether they were involved in the theft or whether they're being sold in the street, that is something that's happening. We are, at the Sheriff's Department, looking at using this curfew as a way to encounter some of these folks that are still out walking at night, late at nights, that are out when they should not be, and give us the opportunity to encounter them in a legal way and kind of see what's going on with them during those hours. In coming up with this curfew, I kind of looked around the state of Mississippi to other jurisdictions that have enacted similar curfew and drew from them to come up with something that I thought would work for us here in Ocklawaha County. All of you should have a copy of it. I've distributed it to Rob, to Haley Brown, to Mark Jackson, the juvenile court prosecutor, as well as Judge Quarles, to get their advice and other things that we may need to tweak. And quite frankly, at some point, we may need to come back to you and tweak this some more. If we see something that's not working or something that needs to be added. But I thought this was a good starting place for us to try to move forward.
I will give you my impression of this. This was very well thought out. Any of the issues that I would have had, he addressed before I even asked him. Honestly, he'd already put some things in there that I had some questions about, or would have had questions about. Typically, I'm not crazy about curfews in general. If we're going to do one, this is a very well thought out curfew. This has got exceptions that for people that there are kids that are working, emergencies, those types of things. So if I don't think you could have done a better job with what you have in front of you. Now that being said, like you said, we may have to come back and tweak this, but I thought you did. Frankly, you could have done a better job.
What about the back end of it on the fines? And we talk about we do have with the Sheriff's Department. Obviously, we have people, and we talked about those fines and helping to clean up our community roads and things like that. I know that's further past, but the fines on the ends, giving some of those people the opportunity to work those fines off by, they would be under the supervision, of somebody from the county. Would that be a possibility? And I know I keep asking that, but trash on our highways, our roads have gotten so bad.
So you will see in there, in the section of dealing with penalties, I have built in an option for hours of community service work in lieu of fine. Pastor Carpenter is part of a group that's been meeting every couple of weeks from different parts of the community that are trying to come up with ways to deal with this juvenile problem. And I know I listened to y'all debating it earlier. It's multifaceted, and no one solution is going to solve this problem. This is certainly not going to solve it. This is just a tool in the toolbox. But my intention in building in the community service hours was to give these kids something else that they could do that would be a benefit, not only to themselves, but to the county. Now, as far as what that is, frankly, we don't have it worked out yet. What I would look for would be some organizations that we could approve, and this may be part of the tweaking that I would have to come back to you once we get these organizations on board. When we have approved organizations where they are being supervised, the safety issues are addressed, but once those organizations get approved, then Judge Quarles could certainly, as an option, send those children to do those community service hours. I think that's appropriate. A lot of these kids don't even have, and if you notice, the fines are not large. That was by design. They go up the more times that you violate the curfew. That was also by design. I don't know who it was earlier that was talking about consequences and things like that, but I think people are general outcome driven, and at some point the consequences outweigh the benefits of doing the thing. I think this is a measured way to get to that point. At some point, I think everybody's going to be smart enough to say, I've had enough. And hopefully we've built in enough into the penalties to do that. But I would definitely come back to you if you approve this ordinance as we reach out and find some organizations that could get approval to work as community service hours.
I've got one question about this. What would you have in place for special consequences, parents that work overnight and depend on their child to be at home where they're supposed to be and not physically able to be there and make sure that they're at home? Is there any special considerations that will be given in case, and that is possibility it might not ever happen, but it's a possibility it might?
So there are circumstances in here built in where if somebody is supervising the children in lieu of the parent, that is one of the things that is standing here. Now, what we're trying to avoid is a juvenile being out running the streets at night with their 18-year-old brother or their 18-year-old sister, and that's the only supervision that they have out running the roads. If they're at home in the supervision of that same 18-year-old, I don't have a problem with it. If they're out running the streets, that's when it becomes an issue. There are some exceptions built in here for other responsible adults. And I know Judge Quarles and I have been going back and forth over exactly how to define that. That may be a thing that we need to tweak in the future. But just bear in mind that this is only going to be for kids that are out on the streets, not kids at home. Now, if you'll also notice in the penalty section, the parents don't actually start getting any consequences until the second infraction. So if there is an issue where a child is sneaking out or what have you, then that gives those parents the opportunity to step in and figure out a way where that child can be supervised when they're not at home.
Captain, on the first page, the curfew, I believe, is 11, and the second page is 10 o'clock. What is the beginning time for the curfew, 11 or 10?
All right, so
the second page says 10.
I did make some grammatical corrections. Since the time I originally said it to y'all, the curfew time would be 11 p.m. to 6 a.m. during the week, and then 12 midnight to 6 a.m. on Friday and Saturday. So okay. Sunday through Thursday, 11 to 6, Friday and Saturday, 12 midnight to 6.
My next comment is, will you continue to look at some type of intervention? If a young person continues to be out late, and that might mean, contacting the school system and providing some type of intervention there, some type of counseling with community counseling, some type of intervention without that process.
To Judge Quarles. Judge Quarles does have access to those things and the legal authority to send them to those things. But I didn't build it specifically into this. I kind of left it to her discretion. She's much better qualified to determine what they need for those infractions than the sheriff's department.
That's good. That's what I was looking for. Thank you, Captain.
Yes.
Hey, Captain Watson, one thing to think about, and I don't know how you could put this into your meeting on the minor. It says someone that's under 18 years old, and you've got 18-year-olds that are high school seniors. Would you add into that, or would that be something that the board would be for or against, to add 18 or high school age children? Because what I see is a couple of 18-year-old seniors, they're exempt from this in essence, but they're still kids in ways, you know what I mean? Is there a way to
I do, and I'm sure we could come up with some language with the assistant Mr. Robinson and Judge Quarles that would address that. If you notice in there, I've addressed the opposite end of that, where we have a lot of college students that are coming here that are 17 years of age that would be affected by this curfew. But I did build that exception in where if they have a valid college ID, then they are exempted from this. Because, quite simply, we don't want to affect college students' time here at school. But we can certainly, I think, if we can come up with the proper language, come back to you and add that as a tweak in there where we addressed high school age. Even though they're able to 18, we can probably address that as well, but that may take a little bit of time to come up with the exact language.
Gotcha. My suggestion, I was at the meeting the other night when you presented it to the group, and there were several questions from some of the people that were there in the audience. My suggestion is for us to perhaps set a hearing on this, public hearing, give the public an opportunity to maybe have some input. That would be my
Can we do that? Captain Watson lead the hearing? Can answer questions? Would it be okay if we set a public hearing and you led the hearing? I mean, you were there to answer questions directly? I mean, we'll hear.
If that's the board's pleasure, I will certainly make myself available. As long as we don't do it the next week.
Well, is that your motion?
Yes,
I'll second that.
Yeah.
Motion by Supervisor Trainer, second by Supervisor Miller, that we have a public hearing on the curfew for minors. All in favor? We need a motion for when that public hearing is gonna be.
And can we see if we could get, well, I guess we could do it in the next courtroom, either that or we could get
It's gonna be next board
maybe at
meeting.
the school auditorium or something, or what?
We might can do it at the community safe room as well.
Okay,
I want to do that. We certainly would have a room there.
okay.
We're gonna have it outside the board meeting.
I don't know.
We need to do it at 9. We need to do it after 5.
Next board meeting at 6 o'clock, maybe. Next board meeting on the 17th.
Would we be able to advertise and be able to, in time?
I think you can.
Okay.
Okay.
So we just set public hearing for next, on the 17th, at May,
17th.
at 6 p.m.
Here?
6 p.m.
In the courthouse.
In the courthouse.
In the big courthouse.
In the big courtroom.
Correct, so it's not about the same room.
Well, we'll have to advertise, change the location and everything else.
And the
Well,
big
okay.
courthouse. We do the big courthouse.
Yes, so this is during the board meeting. Okay.
Will that room be big enough, large enough, do you think?
I think
The big courtroom will. Big courtroom.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
I need to get this
We need a motion.
tweeted, the changes made to it, published it.
Captain Watson's already told me
Good
something.
idea, Supervisor Trainer.
I think he actually sent me a corrected copy, if I'm not mistaken, so we're good.
Look, I'll make sure that everybody has a copy with the grammatical errors corrected as well before the board meeting. I'll send it out to your individual emails.
But don't worry about it this week, obviously.
Okay. You'll have it well before then, I'll put it that way.
We might not have a chance to get it published if we don't.
You and I were together on that. I
When are you gonna have it, Mr.
2 weeks today.
When do you gotta have it, time limit wise?
May 17th at 6 o'clock.
No, when do you have to have it to be published in order to do
Have to run it
that?
twice. 2 weeks, once a week before the meeting.
I tell you what, I'll get it together, in the next day or so, and I'll have it to you the next day or so.
Okay,
It
well,
won't
we
take-
can have them, actually, have it at the first meeting in June, to be fine too. Yeah.
I can get, yeah, there's not a problem.
Yeah, let's have our first meeting in June. I don't want to interfere on your honeymoon.
That's fine.
Can we have the first meeting in June though at night? I'm just saying, can we have it at night so the public can come if we're gonna change the date to?
It's really not a problem, I can get it
How the
done.
first is, I think first
Just a
is
few
still
changes, I've already got
first
those
Monday
done.
at 9, but you know, we need to have another meeting the next night. I mean, we can do that.
Well, or if we
Or
did,
that night.
if we did our normal board meeting and then recessed and had a
That'd
public
be
hearing
great. That'd be great.
at 5:30, do y'all wanna do that on June, that way
Yes.
Captain Watson could enjoy his honeymoon week?
That would be good. That would be great.
Okay, so we changed the date,
Okay.
okay.
June 1st, and it'll be 6 o'clock in the big courtroom. We're gonna recess and come back.
Be June 7th.
Yes, ma'am. I'll be ready.
June 7th.
7.
June the 7th, thank you. Congratulations.
Thank
Motion
you.
on,
Come on.
scheduling, motion by Supervisor Trainer, second by Supervisor Miller, that we have that, board meeting on, first board meeting at 6 o'clock, and then we'll recess and come back on June 7th. All in favor?
Alright.
Motion approved. 5-0. Okay. Thank you, Captain Watts.
Have a good day.
Need a motion,
I'm turning you on.
Yes, ma'am.
need a motion acknowledging, Captain Watson's, presentation. Motion by Supervisor Montgomery, second by Supervisor Miller, that we acknowledge the presentation coming from Captain Watson. All in favor? Motion carries. Presentation, we acknowledge Captain Watson's presentation. 5-0.
Sounds good, yes, sir.
And our public hearing is June the 7th, that night.
We're gonna have our normal meeting in the morning, then recess and come back and have a public hearing.
Okay.
That sounds good.
Moving forward. We have a citizen that has come in about waste service trash bill. Please come forward and drum up.
Hi, I'm Victoria Longo. The reason I'm here is I have been receiving since April a billing statement from Ossipee County Solid Waste that does not belong to me. Neither does it belong to anyone that resides in my home or has ever resided in my home. I have repeatedly asked that they cease sending the bill, but it's still coming to my house. I believe in August of last year, I contacted the Board of Supervisors and Ms. Garrett regarding the issue. And I think that in response, she sent me a copy of a code. But in that code, I still don't see where anyone legally has the right to alter a billing statement and change it into a deceased person's name, to refuse to pick up garbage but continue to bill us for those services. and to harass and bully non-involved parties. That bill doesn't belong to me. So when I ask that you stop sending it to my house, it should no longer be sent there.
What's the address in question, Ms. Darwell?
The address that you're sending it to, which you should not be, is 201 Cherokee Drive in Stockton.
Okay, that's your home in
Yes.
Rolling Hills, but what's the address that they're saying?
I believe it's 5873. I mean, you took the address out, so I think it's 5873 US Highway 82.
Well, Cherokee Drive is not in my district, but the address in question is in my district, out on Highway 82. And a little bit of background. This is a bill that's our property, that has been coming to our property, which was originally Ms. Drungo's mother's property. She was the original owner of that property. And you know, as with so many different cases, after we passed the board order back January a couple of years ago to hold the property owner responsible, then that's where this all sort of started with Ms. Drungo and the bill, she receiving the bill and things of that nature. But I think there's a few extenuating circumstances dealing with this one, because although it's our property, I don't think there's anybody that's name is particularly on the deed. I think where she became involved is she got her mother and had caretaker responsibility, I guess, power of attorney, and you
my
never.
mother lived with me.
Okay. But that's where all this sort of, and Rob, I think you have spoken with, and Miss Garrett has also, but that's sort of the background to what we're dealing with. And Ms. Drungo, as she stated, doesn't seem to think that, you know, she should be responsible for sure. And I guess nobody attached to that property should be responsible.
Well, I really don't. And my reason for saying that is because I think when I spoke with Ms. Garrett back in August, and I believe I spoke with you also, and again, you sent me this Mississippi code. And when I'm not an attorney, but when I read this code, you have defined in here the person who owes the bill. So being that in 20 years, my mother never received a billing statement, and when you define the person who owes, what I'm reading is you say the person who owes would have had to have an opportunity for a hearing. And in 20 years, my mother never received that opportunity. So, yeah, I do understand that you are saying that the property owner, as well as the person residing at the property would be jointly responsible. But even in joint responsibility, the persons have to be notified. So, now the way I look at it, and correct me if I'm wrong, to notify the person, you would either have to do a joint billing, or you would have to follow the procedures laid out in your code, which states that the board of supervisors has to it appears to be annually provide some type of notice, or at minimum within 90 days after the due date, the person who is, and here you say person who owes would receive that notice, or an opportunity for the hearing. So if my mother didn't receive any of that in 20 years, then certainly she could not be quote the person who owes.
I mean, and listen, I totally understand, and this board, we had a long drawn out conversations about how we were going to move forward with this, and I can certainly understand that you didn't receive the services, and for you to be getting the bill, I totally understand that you didn't. but the services were attached to that property, and there was somebody living at that property that actually received the services. And that's what we're trying, that's what we've got to work through, because the county can't give away services. The county actually gave the services and weekly picked up the garbage, and so the services were there, but we've got to determine, and the reason we actually passed the board order was because of this very thing, that the county was offering the services and giving the services, but wasn't receiving compensation for those services. So that's sort of where we're at, and I can understand your point of view, but Attorney Robinson is our attorney, and he's, you know.
Who was receiving the services?
It was in the name of a sibling.
So it was one of your brothers or sisters?
It was one of my
Your brother?
Mm-hmm.
And your brother had been living there for an extended period of time, correct?
Yes.
And bless your heart, you're the one that ended up having, when you were taking care of your mom, that's how it got ended up sent to you, correct?
That's how it's being sent to my home.
But
here's my first question. Is it legal, you are an attorney, right? Is it legal to open an account in a deceased person's name, or to bill a deceased person? To switch someone else's 20-year delinquent billing statement into a deceased person's name, is that legal? Because that's like opening an account in a deceased person's name. Am I correct?
no, you're not correct, because the property was always in your mother's name, correct?
Yes, but the bill, I'm not speaking of the property, I'm speaking of the billing statement.
But that's what I'm talking about. The property was in your mother's name, correct?
Right. Okay.
Whenever the property was in your mother's name and the billing was attached, and the billing's keep in mind, the billing has always been attached to your mother, even though she may have not received the bill directly to her, it was always attached to her, and that's the unfortunate part about this. Since this bill actually belongs to your brother, is there a way we can get him involved in this and see if he will pay the bill?
I'm not involved in that. Like I said, I am not involved in that. My concern is that after 20 years, you have changed the billing statement into my deceased mother's name. I'm highly offended by that. My mother passed, she didn't leave any unpaid bills. So first off, that's offensive. So
Have you probated the estate?
I'm sorry?
Have you probated the estate?
No, we have not.
Is there a reason you haven't probated the estate?
Well, yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, there is a reason, but we haven't done it. And I guess what I'm concerned about is how do you legally alter a 20-year billing statement and change it into a deceased person's name? That's the first question.
It was always your mother's bill because it was always in her name. The property was.
But why is it that she never received the billing statement? Or why was she never notified of the bill? Because based on the document that was sent to me to support you sending the billing statement to my home, it says that you have a responsibility to notify the person. Well, in 20 years, that notification was never provided.
So there was never a bill sent to that address?
There was never a bill sent to my mother or the address that my mother lived at, where my mother lived.
Your mother never lived at this address, correct?
If she did, it was probably temporarily, maybe 25 years or so ago, and it was probably, and she really didn't live there. She visited there. I want to say probably 25 years ago, but for the past 20 years, my mother resided with me, and I lived out of state.
I think what attorney is saying, that the notification, what you are disputing is your mother never received notification.
Mm-hmm.
But what Attorney Robinson is saying, notification was being sent to that address, which in turn is the notification.
I guess I need to help you. I guess I need you to help me see how that would be. Because if you send in a notification to that address and the person who resides their name, then you're sending a notification to the person that resides there. Now you're saying that you're going off the tax bills. Well, you were sending the tax bills to Illinois where my mother lived. So, and I guess what I'm trying to say is, you would know that sending an address to her at that address would not be a notification to her. that would be obvious, because you send the text bills to, you notify there, so you never, my whole point is you never notified them. And you had everything you needed to provide notification.
Ms. Drungo, if, and you may have reasons that you don't want to do this, so I'm not trying to suggest that you do it or don't do it, but it may not be a bad idea to open an estate on your mother, to go ahead and make that as part of it. And a judge at that point could look at that and say that maybe that's not a proper bill in that attack. Our problem is we're in a catch-22. The state law says that we're supposed to attach the bill and we can't forgive it to the landowner. And that's what we're running this hiccup. I'll be very honest with you. I wish that I could come up with a new rule that based on certain situations and circumstances that we could be able to forgive the bill. But in this situation, we don't really have a way to I guess, take that route. However, if a judge told us that wasn't a proper bill, then it's not on us anymore. It's not on the board to have to make that decision. A judge has now made that decision. Now, I'm not saying that you have to do that or whatever. I'm saying that you might want to talk to an attorney and see if there's a possibility of getting the estate open and closed. And I don't even know how much this bill is, to be honest with you. I'm off the top of my head, I can't remember. But it may be something worthwhile to check into.
Okay, I don't see where opening the estate has anything to do with the fact that you've altered a building statement. Now, I understand.
Ms. Drogo,
I hear what you're saying.
The reality is that the property owner, this is what state law has only allowed us to do.
I clearly understand that.
Okay.
So I mean, really, it's not necessary to go back over that because I clearly understand that. But my next question is, since April of 2020, you have not collected garbage at that location, but you've been adding ongoing monthly service charges. Isn't that fair?
Is that not
fair? Stealing, you're charging for a service that you're not providing.
And that's a different subject matter. We provide services out there that whether or not it's being picked up or not, the services are being provided for that. Is there a house out there?
Yes, it is. Well, how are you?
Is there anyone living in the house?
Yes. That's
all right. Is the electricity on?
Yes.
Is the water on? Then the services are being provided. Whether or not they're being used or not is irrelevant.
I'm not asking about the service being used. I'm saying that you have refused to pick up garbage at the location. So how are you billing for something that you're refusing to do? Garbage has not been picked up at that location since April of 2020.
Well, now that's my district. I know Raymond had a trash container. I have not heard one time that, because all that takes is a phone call to say you all need to be picking up. I had heard one time somebody tell me that they won't pick up the garbage there. I hadn't seen garbage accumulated there.
No, because we went out and cleaned it up. In the letter that I sent, who's Miss Garrett? I'm sorry. In the letter that I sent to you, I'm sure I stated that the garbage hadn't been picked up. Plus the phone conversation I had with you, I mentioned to you garbage hadn't been picked up. And I think at that point you stated that you have to pick up garbage. Well, I said when the garbage is not being picked up. If you look at my letter from August of 2020, it specifically states, and that's when I asked, how are you charging for a service that you are not that you're refusing to provide?
I don't remember the letter.
Okay, but you should have a copy of this.
Look it back up and struggle up. I was thinking that our last conversation that the electricity had been turned off and nobody was living at the trailer any longer.
Oh, that was never. That never occurred, and we never had that conversation.
I haven't looked at any of this in over a year, but I will be glad to go back and look at it.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so.
Well, Ms. Drogo, if I'm telling you, I mean, you and I have talked several times, lengthy conversations. But if you had ever once said they won't pick up that garbage, all that would have taken was a phone call.
I don't know if I said it or not. Maybe you should check back through my text messages.
I will check because I know I would have immediately picked up the phone and made one phone call and told them. I do it all the time when they miss somebody or something like that. I do it all the time.
Well, like I said, just read my text message. I'm not sure if I mentioned it or not, but I do know for a fact it's stated in my letter, and I do recall specifically. Mentioning to Ms. Garrett because you said that you have to pick up garbage, and that's when I said, well, they're not picking it up, and to this day they are not picking it up. So I don't know how they have been adding charges because they know they're not picking it up. I mean, it's you know what you're doing. If you send someone out to pick up garbage, and since April of 2020 you haven't picked it up, you know you haven't picked up the garbage. So why are you billing for it?
Well, this board, to be honest, this board wouldn't know. This board
Who
relies
does
on
the building?
The building. Golden Triangle Planning Development does the building.
Okay, are they the ones that send the people out to pick up the garbage?
No. That's
so you got
that's
a whole
different
different
entity.
pieces.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's a different entity. That's based out of Lowndes County, but this board is a partner in that entity. But the day-to-day operations, this board does not know. And lots of times, I'll get a phone call and say, the route missed me today. That's the only indication I will have. I will immediately pick up the phone and call over there and say, listen, whatever this address was, for some reason they missed that one today. Sometimes it's because the garbage can is sitting too far off the right of way, and they're not gonna run way out and get it. So there's several reasons, but long story short, I will make one phone call, and they will remedy that.
Okay.
So this is my first hearing of that. To be honest, now I'll check the test.
I know that we've talked.
Ms. Drongo, we certainly thank you, and I think this is going to be resolved by you continue to communicate with your supervisor, and your supervisor will continue to communicate with our board attorney and the county administrator. But do be aware of the fact that if someone is living in a residence, the lights on, and someone living there, a bill is being generated, and someone is responsible for that.
I understand that. That wasn't my question. That's not my question.
Okay, well, your supervisor will follow up with you, and Supervisor Howard is real good about taking care of his constituents, and that information be referred on. And I'll stay in communicating with Supervisor Howard, the president of the board, to make sure we move forward with your consent. And we can't resolve it here at the table today. Anyway, this is something that has to be resolved outside of the board.
Okay, then when can I expect communication? When can I?
Well, I'm sure Supervisor Howard will
contact you after the meeting.
Okay. All right. Okay.
What we will do, we'll set up a meeting with myself, you, Ms. Garrett, and Attorney Robinson.
Okay.
And soon.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate your time.
You're welcome. Thank you, Mr. Jones.
Thank you.
Motion to acknowledge.
Second.
Motion by the trainer, second. We acknowledge the Drongo's presentation to the board. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Moving forward with Mr. Martin. I don't see Mr. Martin here today. I believe that our road manager might have a report in regards to that. I think he is taking care of Mr. Martin's concern. I believe he's taking care of Mr. Martin's concern.
Yeah, we were able to resolve all of her concerns on that road. And she called the road manager's office this morning and said she wouldn't be here today.
Okay. Her concern has been taken care of. Project update, Mr. Mitchell.
Top of the day to you. I got just a couple of items for you this morning. First of which, in prior board meeting, we had some discussion about traffic control and extended expense for Burns, and the board elected to approve a $55,000 increase in their maintenance of traffic item out there, largely due to the amount of utilities that they had for an extended period. This is a supplemental agreement. Because it's a lump sum item in the contract, I have to have a signed agreement for that $55,000.
There's been a motion for approval.
And where's that coming from? money pot? Is that?
It's the same funding that we've already got.
Well, we've already approved the, 50,000, so you
Yeah,
just.
this is just paperwork to follow it.
Now, this is fixing the potholes, or is this something else?
That's total maintenance of traffic control, potholes, cones, barricades, moving, relocation, and just additional work for that.
Just trying to keep it open through there where some.
That's right.
Did they open it, that new line?
Well, while we're there, we will intend to turn traffic to the north side within the next couple of days. We're evaluating, we actually built the detour road last week, which is a chip seal road, 2 lanes on the north side. And we're evaluating what the rain did to us over the weekend, so we intend to turn traffic to that side sometime this week. I'm gonna contact Sheriff Gladney. We'll be putting a double yellow stripe down that temporary road, and I'm gonna see if we can get some assistance both ends with the traffic when we turn it over to make sure everybody kind of realizes what we're doing. Yeah?
Get what you need to do.
Miss Sherrod, I'm gonna leave this with you. They've got a ticket about stamps. I don't know. Right now, I can't tell you what they want stamped or not, so I'd rather you stamp it if you would.
We want it stamped and certified copy.
Yeah, they've had a little bit of a policy change there, so they seem to want that. Second item I have for you are the actual contract documents. Bob, I've got 5 copies of the same thing, contract documents and contract bond, which awards the Hickory Grove project to Cologne Construction. So I'll require a signature and stamp on that.
Motion on approval by Supervisor Reynold, second by Supervisor Howard. All in favor? Motion carries 5-0.
The Poorhouse Road, we received the office review back from state aid, and some comments on that, and during the period of those comments, we realized some of them were coming from, they had, in error, gave us a project number for a new construction as opposed to a maintenance job. So we're addressing those comments now. There'll be a project number change to SAP 538M, and we should have those back to state aid this week for final review. They'll put the package together and then we can advertise for bids.
Can you make sure on that we don't get into the same issue like Longview Road on the extended period of time? I know we've talked about that, but that road is so heavily traveled. I'd like to make sure that we have time limitation if the board's okay with that. I know it may drive the cost up a little bit, but to make sure that that project gets completed in a short period of time. I think we've discussed that, but I hope all the other supervisors will be on board with that.
But it's kind of already understood.
Well, it doesn't need to be understood, it needs to be documented in the contract. And we haven't seen that, so before you send that out, that specific language, I would like to see that, how that's addressed.
It's a standard state aid contract with number of work days that we can specify. We can specify anything from 5 days to months. Like it's a standard state aid. They have a standard for their liquidated damages or non-performance. There's standard contract language in there is what constitutes a work day, especially holidays and rain and that type. We will give them the minimum amount of time that we think it'll take to actually construct the job. But if you want to review the contract prior to us putting it out for bids, we can get it approved by state aid, pass it through the board. If you want to amend something, then we'll go back to them with it amended.
Okay, you answered what I was fixing to ask. If we have to get them to if we amend something after they've approved it, are they gonna have to?
They're gonna have to go back and look at it again.
Which could create another time? Okay.
We call it the Green Book Assembly, but that's their standard contract with all the special provisions. And if you want to amend that contract, what I might could do is send you that in advance.
Okay.
And so that we send it to them with the first time run, to see what they say about it. I will say because everything is so intertwined in that state aid contract with respect to work days and time and a single revision in there can cause a lot of
right. And I want if we can cut that part out and get to her point before that, you and I'll get together and see, figure that out.
Does it have to be working days as opposed to calendar days?
Again, that's just one of those changes. If you change that one item in there, it's gonna affect literally hundreds of clauses in their green book. in
So
their
it
contract.
has to be specified.
It has to be work days.
Has to be work days. And I'll verify that, but again, but just about every section they have for work in there, type of work, what you're doing, grading, draining, that's all tied to their standard time.
Could you, I guess I was signing something a few minutes ago, but what road in particular are you talking about?
We're talking about Poorhouse.
Poorhouse Road.
Okay, Poorhouse Road.
So, long story short, the plans are essentially done, we're changing the project number, we'll be putting that back
Yeah,
up to
the whole
Sunday.
link, which is Joe's.
Joe,
Whatever you need me to do to make certain that it doesn't, we don't hit a hiccup with changing anything, just let me know, and I'll come to you if I have to.
I guess the plan to do now would be for us to send you what we'll send them for the contract, and y'all look at it concurrent.
Okay.
Yeah, yes, yes.
What do you need from us in relation to the Poorhouse Road project?
I just need, if you want to think about amending it, I need his comments when we send it to stuff.
How many standard days are in it now? And I'm just asking because, if you look at Longview Road.
But this is not, you can't compare it, you gotta compare apples to apples. This is
Well,
just
I
overlay.
understand. In fact, this is gonna be even busier road. This is gonna be
But it
more
goes
like
even faster.
blacktop, yeah.
It goes even faster.
So-
than that.
I think, I don't have it in front of me right now, but I think we've got it set up for like a 90-day job.
Yeah, it's gonna be quick.
It would be a quick job to do, but I will also tell you while we're here right now, we built a private job this week for filling and paving and overlay for private entities. We sent out to 6 different vendors to do that work. We have one quote. All these folks are extremely busy right now. I mean, we got one quote out of 6 packages. And it was a pretty decent little job to do. So we'll effort to get it out just as quickly as we can. There is work going on Longview. Don't know who's been through there last, but they're laying pipe out there. We're steady pressing them to put more force, more equipment on the job and work, but there is work going on.
Can you address like the signage? So apparently there's still people going through there, but sometimes they feel like they can't. They got daycares, and so do you know where we are? I mean, can they not get through at all, or can they get through if they need to get through, or is there proper signage? That was some of the concerns I got in an email this week.
The signage should be there, essentially saying road closed. We'll check that. They may come up on a condition if we've got the road completely severed in two halfway, even though they've gone around a barricade or skipped a sign, that they'll find they gotta turn around and go back. John Weaver rides that road daily. I'll mention it to him so we can check the signage in the floor.
So my response to them should be that the road is closed.
The road is technically closed and under construction. Okay, a couple of you have hit me up, mentioned doing programs for your state aid work. I need board orders for those programs to move forward.
I'm ready right now. Tell me when you're ready.
I've
got Maven Sturgis Road. My road, I can see it's way down the list. Won't get anything done. I've got $535,000 county money, $412,000 give or take state aid money, which leaves me $948,000. I want to program Maven Sturgis Road. What we looked at, I think you said it was.
And that was from the district line north to 82.
Correct.
And I verified with state aid that they will allow us to start at the district line. They were okay with that as a start point. So what I'd prefer right now, I know several of you got roads on your mind, if I can just get a program or a board order to program that road, I'll come back to Miss Emily and say what funds are being allocated to this, whether it be state aid or bond or private or county money. And then I can put those together, not to eat up everybody's time.
Yeah, we need to program and not just a program.
I just need permission to
program.
program.
Motion to program Maven Sturgis.
I make that.
Been motion by
Program
Supervisor
Maven Sturgis Road.
Motion by Supervisor McDermott, second by.
I think Clyde just needed a board order right now to allow him to program.
The program, that's all.
Not any particular roads, and then
No.
is that not right?
Particular road.
I'll need
Particular road.
Oh, that's.
I'll need an order to program that particular road
Particular
or
road,
a
okay.
combination of roads.
Okay.
I just don't need the amount of funding right at this time. I can go back to Miss Emily and say, well, supervisor, trainer has asked me to program this, what funds are we putting toward that?
Okay.
Now, how many roads do you have that you need a program that we can do separate, or we need to do them collectively?
I'll let y'all bring them to me. I know I
I'll make a
talked to-
motion
Okay,
for
let's
Maven
be working
Sturgis
then.
Road.
We're working on Maven Sturgis then. We got a motion by Supervisor McDermott, second by Supervisor Howard, that we program Maven Sturgis Road. All in favor? Motion carries 5-0. And I'm gonna do a motion from the chair that we program, Alcott Road.
And I've been hearing it from left field, but you have the legislation in place. Miss Emily, I'll make a copy of that and send with the pro. Octop
For
Road.
1 million.
Motion by myself, second by Supervisor Howard, Supervisor Trainer, that we program Alcott Road. All in favor? Motion carries 5-0. Another road, we got another road.
Hold on one second. Who made the motion on our top road?
I motion.
And Howard
Supervisor
second.
My little board road, just
Howard
two
second.
affairs, and all bad citizens. All we have to do is this one.
Do we have another road that we need to
Let
program?
me add before we move forward one thing. Remember that you can always go back and revise the program document. This gets it started, so we can go do our
To
plan.
prove that there's
and
money
estimate.
available.
But if there are new monies come in available and you've got X amount of state aid and you've got X of this and some grant money or something else come, you can go back and amend the funding program for the job.
So once you program it, you'll know how much it's gonna cost to complete that
The
project.
program lets us, when we give you a preliminary estimate,
Yeah.
I'm going out riding, my folks will go out riding, we say we think we got this much pipe, this much repair, this much overlay, and we put a pretty good guess at what we think that road is. When you program it, then we're physically gonna go out there and take measurements and, size pipe and do all the things, just like we're fixing to put it to contract.
And on the road that I just mentioned, Maven Sturgis Road, I'd like a full depth reclaim on that. Other than there is a section in the middle that's not as bad as the others, you could probably do. Some bad spots that are base failures and whatnot. But
I think in our original estimate done to you, we had some full depth, but we had some base repair, we had some leveling, because we were crunching things down, trying to do the money, but, before we send in a set of plans, you're gonna look at it. Okay? Alright, anybody?
Yeah, I need a motion I'm making a motion to program Maven Bell.
Maven Bell.
Motion by Supervisor Howard, that we program Maven Bell. Second by Supervisor Trainer. All in favor? Motion carries 5-0.
Now, I would like to get a motion to program 3 roads. I'm gonna tell you what my intention is. I know we're gonna get some additional funding, some of that land.
3 roads.
And my 3 roads are Old West Point Road, Crawford Road, and Curtis Chapel Road. Now, as of right now, I know the funding is not available for all those roads. But once the funding becomes available, the program will be ready, and then we can move forward. If the funding is not available, then we'll have to just decide out of those 3 roads how we're gonna spend the funding that's available.
You said Crawford Road.
so you don't have the funding.
I don't have all the
You have a
funding.
guesstimate on what those would be.
No, but that's what we'll have once Clyde does the program. We'll know exactly.
And let me add to that, too, if it's light work, similar work, I talked about all those 3 would be about the same. And if we even go to bid stage and get bids and say that we don't have money, or if our funding estimate doesn't cover it, then if it's agreed by the contractor and the board, we can take one of those roads out. But now, there is a chance that, let's just say we took Curtis Chapel out. There's a chance that the contractor would say, no, I wanted all 3 of them, and he could back out even.
Right, that's not a problem.
But that's not,
Then, okay.
okay.
You made a motion.
Okay, motion by
I'll
Supervisor
second
Trainer, second by Supervisor Montgomery, and I'm gonna repeat these, so I think we got them. Old West Front Road, Crawford Road, Curtis Chapel. All in favor? Motion carries 5-0.
I would like to make a motion on the same lines as Supervisor Trainer. I got a County Line Road and now Self Creek Road has some places. Simply because, like Supervisor Miller said, we've got log trucks and we don't want to stop that. We've got log trucks going up and down our state aid roads to the point of we're in some disrepair. So County Line Road and Self Creek Road, I'd like to program as well.
Second.
Motion by Supervisor Montgomery, second by Supervisor Howard, that we program County Line Road and Self Creek Road.
So, just
County Line, Self Creek. All in favor? Motion carries 5-0.
So
Let me ask you
just by example, John, on those two, we're gonna have to show funding on the program of some type. You're putting,
Oh, I don't have funding. I thought we.
well, you're gonna have to show it as county funds.
I'm gonna ask.
Yeah, I mean, there's gonna have to be a number there, is what I'm saying, in county funds. So you'll put in for your state aid on Maven and your balance on Maven. We can program these two in here, but for right now, if there's no state aid money in it, they'll just show county funds.
Let me ask you this. We're asking you to go ahead and program all of these roads. Your engineering fee,
Correct.
does it come off of this state aid money? So, I mean, it's gonna cost me a certain amount to program one road, but it'll cost me even more to program 3 roads for your engineering fee. So how do,
I get what you're saying.
does that money come out of the state aid funds
If
for your
there's
fees?
state aid funds involved, our contract, our state aid, your contract with me for state aid and LSVP says, for some reason that job is aborted. It doesn't happen. And you owe me 75% of 40% of my fee. We would collect 40% of our design fee, which is 12% of the project, if the job was awarded. If the job is not awarded, then you would owe me 75% or 40%.
To Supervisor Howard's point, you could spend up your money on engineering fees and not be able to get your roads done. I think that's the point that he was saying, because, you're paying for that engineering fee.
On that point, I think I'm going, because
There's no money here to do.
Right.
I mean,
to be realistic, I think.
we're seeing right now the 9.4 million that we've got coming in is obviously not going to be spent on county roads. We get 6% of fuel tax. We have 70% of the bridges and the roads in the state of Mississippi, and we don't have the money to do it. So I'm going to make the motion, not that I don't want to do those roads, to take County Line and Self Creek Road off of that list.
Before you do that, let's go ahead and issue the bonds up to $10 million.
I'm not going to issue any more bonds.
I make a motion that we issue those bonds up to $10 million and split that money 5 ways to fix these roads in the county. We can do it without even raising taxes.
No, I'm not going to do that.
You mean tell me we can issue the $10 million up in bonds and not raise taxes, and y'all don't want to do it? And these roads are raggedy in our County? No, that's unbelievable.
I don't see a way that we can do it without raising taxes.
We can do. The man told us we did. We can do
We
it.
can do 5.
We can do 10. We can do 10 without raising taxes. I'll make a motion that we issue up to $10 million in bonds.
Let's stay with this motion. I think
Thank you.
Supervisor Montgomery.
I make a motion that we deprogram Self Creek and County Line Road just because.
County Line and Self Creek.
Why would you deprogram it and it didn't work?
Let me ask you this now. I don't mind. Will your engineering fees directly come off the top of state aid money, or will you bring it off of each? I mean,
It'll come out of my district. See, I wouldn't be able to. If I got him to do those, I'm gonna spend about $50,000 or more. Just have him look at roads that I know I can't.
But that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, but you can't pay.
He's not
gonna charge you twice. It'll be out of the way. When the funds come available.
Excuse me.
No, we can issue $10 million.
I think we need to ask, how long does it take you to program a road? Are we are we rushing ahead to program one, or
No.
does it take 1 week, 2 weeks, 3
No,
weeks?
it's gonna take us a couple of weeks to do the program.
So a couple
to get
of
them
weeks.
ready, but what I would add too, I think it's imperative to get these jobs on the shelf, to get them ready. In the instance, John, just say your county line, South Creek, it just line item for funding says totally county funding right now. We're not gonna come to you the day those plans are ready and say you owe me engineering. We're willing and ready to hold that to such a point that funding becomes available. Unless it just starts throwing dust on the shelf at some point, and then I'm gonna come back and say, guys, we've been fooling on this thing 2 or 3 years, it ain't happening, I'd like to get paid for it.
Okay, well, let me put clarity on that. As long as, and I'm so sorry that I keep going back to Maiden Sturgis Road.
Well, see, you
But
going back
let
to
me,
it, but you don't wanna get it fixed.
Because people keep coming to me about Maiden
Well,
Sturgis
you
Road.
go ahead and let's move forward and issue the bond to get the road
But
fixed.
the money's come from the state, the 9.4 million. The last thing that's on our mind is roads, and that's okay. But what I'm seeing Maven Sturgis Road citizens, taxpayers, law-abiding citizens that have been very patient in the past. They're not as patient now. They're wanting results, and I don't blame them. And I don't want programming 2 other roads to cost this project from happening. This is the money that I've got that's in my district's allocation. It's the most pressing need, quite honestly, in the county. It's one of the worst roads in the county. Turkey Creek years ago probably was worse, but Maven Sturgis Road is the worst, and County Line Road are the 2 worst roads in the county. And quite honestly, they get zero attention, little attention at all. This is my only opportunity, without raising taxes on taxpayers
John,
who don't feel like they get their
they
dollar.
want to see the road fixed.
Then
Give them an opportunity to get the road fixed.
I'm
Tell
fixing
them
it.
how much it's gonna cost and just take it to them.
I'm gonna fix it. What I'm saying is I'm gonna fix it with my county money and my state aid money that I've got available, and I would do the same for anybody else here without trying to draw you into another discussion or sway you another way. So I'd ask respectfully that you understand that I'm trying to program Maiden Sturgis Road.
I'm trying to do what I
and get
can
it
for the
done.
citizens of Duval County. And it's
I
time, we
understand.
need to, we can issue those bonds and fix these roads. But we don't want because you're afraid to raise taxes. Give the folks a chance to say if they want the taxes raised and want the road fixed. That's all I'm saying.
I don't want to.
They giving me just as much heat on my road they giving you on your road.
I get it.
That's what I'm trying to get. If they want these roads fixed, they got to pay for them.
Well, I get it, but
So
I get
give
just
them an
as-
opportunity
I
to
get
vote
just
on
as
it.
much heat about, currently right now, I mean, there are people that have businesses that can't afford to pay their employees under the conditions that they're being put under now. I'd hate to have to raise taxes in a day like today. I'm just.
That might be a different subject. Let's see if we continue on with what roads we're going.
So on your point that what you were talking about with Self Creek and the County Line Road, and you program those, that, like Supervisor Howard was asking, is that gonna come off the top? Because if something comes off the top, I won't be able to get Maven Sturgis Road done, and I don't want that to happen again.
In order to program, we'll get it assigned a number. And if we show it fully county funds for now, i.e. your state aid money is sitting at Maven Sturgis. And all we do is we program, we get a number assigned, we got a project number. That assignment is not necessarily Pritchard start on this project at the moment.
So basically, that may just not mean you're gonna design it right
That's
now.
correct. I mean,
You're just signing it a number.
I know there may be some discussion on it, but we're savvy enough to know that John doesn't have the money right now. We don't have to start designing on that. We'll work on the projects if we've got funding for it. And if we get to the point that we're caught up with all that, and we come back and say, are you ready for me to start on SAP 53, whatever it is, we got program. So I don't have to burn an engineer right out the gate if you don't have a funded job.
I can live with that then.
Okay, if that be the case, I'll rescind my motion.
The only thing I don't want is
Good question, good question.
jump up by surprise and, in a year and say, how come you hadn't worked on County Line Road? Well, I've not worked on it because we didn't have any money. Okay?
Gotcha. Does
that work?
Yeah, I can live with that.
I'm savvy, then I would send my motion, Mr. President, if that's okay with you.
Right, so you keep your motion for
Yes, sir.
county line
Yes,
and
sir.
Self Creek.
Because obviously,
So we
we've got
don't
charge
carry,
of
we
engineering
don't
fees
carry that motion.
until the project is funded.
But I would like for you, if you're getting ready to start programming one, sort of let the board know, because if you program it, at some point you gotta get paid for your service.
The actual developing of the program is not the heavy work. The heavy lifting is when we start putting that project.
Yeah.
Programming is just assigning it a number, he's not designing it. He's just
Programming it
putting
is
a number.
maybe a week's work on our part where we start to pull old plans, we're going out there looking at details, we're getting a realistic cost estimate of what we think we got, you know. But again, if I know that this job ain't funded or that job ain't funded, we won't crank up on that till somebody says so.
Sounds good.
And I heard Supervisor Miller say that no engineering, unless a job is lit. That's not necessarily the case. If you turn me loose on engineering, at some point we're gonna give you a bill for engineering.
On design.
On design, that's correct.
And you can't pay for it twice.
Yeah, and for some reason, let's just say, Rob, we've gone into the 40% or 75% because this job didn't get started, and we draw a fee off of that. It gets resurrected and goes, because money came in from manna from heaven, and we started work, and that part of that fee is already paid.
Okay.
All right.
We pay for lobby twice.
The next process, then you will come back and have us to get permission to open a bid to open a bid for these two roads, whatever road.
What we would do, John, I'm using yours as an example, we'll get a project number assigned to it. It'll be programmed, it'll be sitting there, and, funding comes along, you pick up the phone and say, y'all crank up some plans, okay? Or we get to a point where everything else is done, we want to crank them up, I'm gonna come to you and say, do you want me to start this road or not? Okay? Any more questions about that?
No, but can we go back to Longview Road? Miss Peggy Rogers is watching and she wants an answer on the timeline you think now on construction.
That's in an email string that we passed back and forth several times with Blake Hill. They declare that they want that job finished this summer. That's their intent.
Right.
Now, I've not seen that level of effort yet, but I will say it's a long, straight road, and once they get rolling, it could happen pretty quick.
But now going back to the work days, y'all are counting them down now because it's been. Okay.
We started work days back in March. One of my email strings told him I'm starting your work days back to this day. So here's the clock is running.
Okay.
How far is the current road now from the finished road, as far as ditches, pipe?
It's a good bit of work. They're laying pipe now.
I mean, I know they've kept the ditches this winter better than last one, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's drying out, it seems to be, and I know we had some wet weather. It seems to be in a lot better shape.
I mean,
now.
contract-wise, they're probably not 15-20% of contract.
Right.
But the clearing's been done, the utilities are out of the way, they can rock and roll now when it comes to it.
Okay.
All right, any others? You talked about another one,
Which one?
the unpaved section across.
Right, that'll be all.
Do the whole road.
Do what?
I guess you want to do the whole road.
Right, okay.
Well, that would be a separate order, I think, because that's a separate type of work.
Okay. Well, I want to make a motion that we get a engineering process on the unpaid portion of Crawford Road.
Second.
Motion, Supervisor Trainer, second by Supervisor Howard, Crawford Road, Crawford Road. All in favor? Motion carries.
Is that different from the Crawford that we put in with the West Point, that one Crawford?
Right, this one's gravel, the other part is paved.
Okay.
Yeah, this would be a grade, drain, and paved new construction job. That's the reason I needed a separate order. So in my understanding, y'all want these in standalone district projects. Mobile, you want yours as a project. Orlando wants his as a project. You want yours as a project.
Unless they like in kind, you could put them together.
Some of them are like in kind. That's the reason I asked for it.
If you did, all right, how would you be able to do that? Say he gets funding, or he's got the ability to do it or say this district is able to do it and this district's not, could you, if you put them together, would you have to do them together, or could you break one away?
That was my earlier comment. If let's just say we took one project out of all, but the funding is short. If the contractor agrees, and we can eliminate a road, or eliminate 2 roads, if he's agreeable to do that.
Can you do it in reverse though? Can you do it where you've got 3 or 4 different, whatever, say all 5 districts, and then you want to collectively then put them together? Because you've got,
they'll either bid together or they'll bid separate.
It depends on now, if he comes back and say, hey, you done snatched this road out, and I gave you a better price because I was gonna do all of it, then that creates a problem then, because unless he has separately bidded these roads and know that if one happens to be pulled out, but now if he gives you a better price because he's got more work, it's gonna create a problem if you pull the road out and ask him to continue.
So that's the reason I said he would have to be agreeable to taking that road out as well as the board. So we have done that before. If you remember, many years ago we picked up the resale project, and you know, our company came in and said, yeah, we've got this resale y'all bid, but we've been out there and looked at them, we ain't got enough money to do all that. And Supervisor Howard said, well, drop me. And the contractor was amenable to doing that.
To do it, right.
We moved forward. So there is some danger in doing it too.
let's do them separate.
Separate fine.
Are you programming only state aid roads, we haven't talked any about any of these county roads?
No, all these would be state aid projects, state aid funds.
Possibly county funds going with it, but your state
They don't
aid.
necessarily be, and what I'll do is go to Miss Emily after this, and I'll say, Miss Emily, all they was asked was, maybe the bell group, how's this money broke up, so I can put that on the program. Same thing with Orlando, and the same thing with you. Yeah.
I believe Artesia Road need to be overlaid. And, we did a lot of base repair on section that's in District, District 2 and District 5. But that's still a rough line road, and it should be, because of the heavy traffic, the individuals coming in and going out. If you would program the overlaying of Artesia Road.
So, second.
Motion by Supervisor Williams, second by Supervisor Trainer, that we program the overlay on the entire Artesia Road. Am I right, Supervisor Trainer?
Yes, sir.
Entire Artesia Road.
Where did my contracts end up? Now, Sharon, you got those?
All the way
And, you're gonna stamp them for me at some point?
Here.
No, there's.
all in favor?
5 copies.
Motion carries 5-0.
Okay. Anything else from me? Anything else from me?
No.
I got one.
Okay.
Barnett Drive.
Everybody.
I'd like to get paid.
It was
I
processed.
think we passed. We passed.
It was processed and you'll get it checked
Very
next
good.
week.
Very good.
We passed that last night.
I'm sorry.
Sharon, if you need to stamp those, we can come back and get them, or I can send somebody.
One other thing, did you get a response back from the letter from the board that you sent involving Kennedy?
No official response, no.
I sent you a board order.
You did
Last
send me a,
Friday,
you did send me a board order.
I'm requesting all your documentation for, y'all can write down.
And I believe y'all had copies of anything I've invoiced you for.
So we appreciate your help on that damn situation, but we also would appreciate any kind of assistance you can help us as we go through the transition. Give us that thing.
So no. Ironically, where was I standing when I got to
On the county laid down.
my county laid down. All right, that's it. I can get my contracts and my supplemental agreement later. I'm good.
All
Make sure I get a
Thank you,
copy
sir.
back, please, and stuff.
You want a copy? Scan, email, okay?
Motion for acknowledgement of,
We got
motion
one
for
minute.
Yeah.
Motion by
Second.
Supervisor
Thank you, sir.
Supervisor Howard, all in favor? Five oh.
Mr. President, I don't see how good you are. You got, 25 minutes to finish up the meeting.
25 minutes.
I can make it easy. Motion approved, we approve everything else.
Yeah.
Road manager report, we gotta get the road manager report in.
You know, we could do like the city and have a consent agenda.
Yeah, yeah. We starting to have some long meetings now.
Well, look, anybody got, objection, bring it up.
Hello?
Hello.
You got the floor.
Everybody look at their road?
Yes, sir. Knuckle boom, thank you. It's
I
kind
got
of
a
good.
question for you.
Good job. That's a good deal.
Is it necessary for us to have to bring, culvert installation to the board to approve it? We can just go back to the process we were doing before? As long as they meet.
Like a culvert for,
Just for, somebody trying to access their property, somebody trying to do whatever.
I think we need board approval.
I'm kind of.
I mean, it's only 2 weeks. And it's part of too of that development process, is it actually somebody that's gonna move a house out there, or, I think we need to get it approved.
And speaking of that, I've got one issue here, 120 Watershed Drive. For some reason, this guy got kind of mixed up when I sent him. He hadn't even cleaned any property off. He needed to get in there so he can clean the property off. But he misunderstood and he got into the permitting process. And so I do need a board order to have a cover put in for him. Now there was a couple of others, I think, that wanted to move in a mobile home or something. Now they fall into that permitting process. But we need to clarify that.
I'm in the same situation. I mean, some of them not gonna move in today or tomorrow, but they may move in whenever, but they need to have access to the property.
Yeah. And so I don't know how you do that, but I do know, an individual that's gonna go in and clean the property up and then be another year and a half, 2 years before they, that's sort of, I don't know how you address that.
Yeah. Well, I've got one, for instance, somebody was going to build a house before we got into that. It's been sitting there 5 or 6 years.
Yeah.
I take heat over that. You put a culvert to nowhere.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm kind of in the middle. If they don't have access to their property, then we're obligated to give them access to that property. If they don't have any access anywhere else, then.
But I'm just, just having to get a board on every time you get somebody, and I'll send them. Cause see what it's doing is putting a supervisor in almost a silly situation. Because if people contact me and I'm sending them Miss Gary, and Miss Gary sends them back to me, and I'm like, they're saying, well, you ought to have enough sense send me to her, she send me back to you.
I have not put cover down anywhere where I do not know who owns the property. And we don't have a board order saying that we're gonna do that. We have board orders that say we're gonna put in, cover for, site development. That's the only ones we have. And we have a board order that says if they want to access their property, that they can buy the cover and we will cover it up.
Some of the issues, one issue I'm dealing with is out on A.W. Williams Road. I think the guy came and filled out the permit, paid the $21, turned it back in.
Yeah, paid it $21 because
he told me he did. He's supposed to be sending.
I won't take the money till I have proof of water availability and proof of septic system after the day.
Well, see, I don't know. This one may have slipped through the cracks, but anyway, he's supposed to be sending me because I told him send me a picture of it. And see, this guy's already got built and he uses this place for weddings, and it's a really nice building, really nice place out there. but he had to have cover put in because we don't have a board order, because it's just, you know, we have some issues sort of, and like
He built
supervisor
something that
Tracy
he's
said.
using for weddings and everything. That sounds like a commercial venue that he would have needed water and septic system anyway. So.
I mean, he's got everything set up. He just, you know, he needs a cover there, and he's been calling me.
So the appetite for it not to change, I guess, I have one, Ms. Tara Jenkins on Rock Hill Road. You got, which one?
I've got 121 Sheriff Road that I will get this guy in and clean up that problem.
And I think I got another one,
Someone's been doing a parking, another parking, a driveway in their place. What's that thing's name?
that's Ms. Jenkins. That's
Okay.
Ms. Jenkins. I was referring to the guy with the farmer down on Artesia Road. Tony Danson.
Yes.
He mentioned about his situation.
But we never put in 2 culverts for one person without a board order, right?
We've never put in 2 culverts.
I just, the reason I said that, because I noticed on Courthouse Road that we put in 2 culverts. There's a house trailer out there. I never even saw this come through, but they have 2 culverts like that so they can make a circular driveway that we did. And I didn't think that was normal procedure for the county to do that.
Now, what we have done in the past with circular drives, if the person wanted an extra drive, if they would purchase a cover,
Right.
we would come and set it for them.
Right, that's right.
Yeah.
But I mean, we still need to address that with the board
Yeah,
and
oh,
get
yeah.
some type of documentation.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, even if they buy their own cover, I guess with the board.
If they well, we sort of had on the books that if they would
Well, let me
purchase.
ask you about extended culverts too.
Sure, you
And I'm
could.
just gonna ask about this because I had somebody call and I said, well, the law is to get a car or something, and if you're gonna pull equipment in, you need to pay for the difference on that. And I think he came to the road manager as well. But are we all in agreement if it's gonna be something like that we'll do it, but they have to pay for it?
That's what my people in my district have done.
That's what the law,
Like-
or it's
like-
always been.
Like a guy has a big 18-wheeler truck he drives and gets in and out of, so one culvert's not long enough, he needs it twice as long.
Or they got a horse trailer.
Well,
Like
yeah,
this instant.
But
and
now
they-
you're talking about putting on 10 feet or something like that.
No, he wanted a whole nother culvert.
Oh,
He
that's a
wanted-
different story.
Yeah.
But I'm just talking about it, because the cover we put in is 30 feet, right?
Yeah.
And so if
he
you talking
wanted
about,
he wanted 60. He got, I mean, he bought his second culvert and band and everything, and we put it in. I mean, this has been years ago.
How much does covers cost now? $200 a piece?
No, shoot, no.
depending on the size.
300?
Oh, I don't know right offhand. Yeah, they're expensive.
Yeah.
I think they're around 400 a piece.
$380.
Yeah, because I had to purchase one for another piece of property. Sorry.
So I wanna make a
We've
motion.
been asking homeowners to purchase a second cover and to extend the cover too. So I think there's already been water out of the equipment, that they pay for that.
So you all got this policy, these policies are right. Can you send me a copy of it? So I know, so I won't be ignorant to the thing.
Yeah.
We put it in for them, but they purchased the cover. What I've been doing, and what I've been
They'll
telling.
second cover to their property, they have.
And match it up, yeah.
Yeah, they have to buy the cover and we, cover it up.
I just call and ask, and she tells me that there's already been a whole board order for that, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's wanting to know about these culverts to the border, like get him addresses.
Now what about the places that don't have addresses, like, Mr. Danson's farm and Ms. Jenkins, she doesn't even have one.
Well, that's where we get into a situation where you're getting in, there's a situation where you don't want to start just going in address and stuff unless you're absolutely sure these people own this property. That you're giving access to the people that own the property. And then if they're not building a house or anything, you have to watch for them. You're giving people access to this property and letting them get a mailbox put out there, but they're not building a house, so what are they getting there? There's all kind of situations.
The only thing they can do is access their property.
Well, now they can put a mailbox up out there and they can start using it for illegal activities.
Well,
We can't control that.
Well, that's where the 911 people don't want to give out addresses.
But you know, in the past now, the board has always did what they could to allow a person access to their property. So, you know, I understand what you're saying. The main thing for me is allowing somebody to move in and then, like you said, just right next door, they don't put it in the proper system and stuff like that. I understand that part of it. But these people, well, this person is wanting to go in. He bought this property. He want to go in and get it cleared up and stuff like that. So
We had one in Mr. Williams' district that we gave access to, and they were gonna build a house and everything, and come to find out, they didn't have legal access. They had access to property over in the middle, but we had given them access to somebody else's property to get to theirs. Yeah, we couldn't, we couldn't take it up.
Honestly, we didn't. We installed a cover on the right of way. Now, if they went across somebody's property, that property owner need to call the sheriff and tell them to come get it.
They let us believe they own that property.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying.
We do have to prove that
technically,
they, get some kind of proof that they really own the property, that's their property. We got, covered for 21 Sherry Road, I believe, and then Tony down
121 shit.
121 Watershed.
And mine was for
Tony Dancer property.
Tony Dancer property on Ortiz Road. Well, not Tony, it's actually Kenny Sykes property. Tony Dancer has at least a million of maybe the cotton or something.
Kenny Sykes.
And Rock Hill is Tara Jenkins.
What was the, Chancellor?
It's not, it doesn't have an address, but it's just accessing
It's
fees.
Kenny Sykes' property.
Kenny Sykes'
We're
property.
giving permission to access.
Tara Jenkins.
Tara Jenkins.
Right on Rock Hill Road.
Okay, now for Mr. Dancer, that one?
How many have you requested?
Requested two.
Two. Now, Mr. But you talking about, it's not like that, you talking about what, 50 acres now? I think one on 100 acres, one on one end and one on the other end?
Yeah, that's what he was saying.
So what would the board's prerogative on that be?
Well, for instance, say this table is the whole property. They have access in, I only give them one. If they needed a second one to get over, on the other side of the property, then I'd ask them to provide the second one, but I've never had anybody ask me for two.
And I did mention to Mr. Trainer that, keep all the others put in, he didn't have a problem.
Yeah, that's my second
That's
one.
problem solved.
Yeah. It was a discount builder supply right there. It's the cheapest place and you can look everywhere.
I would say, not to open up that can of worms and put in two. But we got a policy in place, we put you one and you purchase one, we'll install it.
We'll install it for you, that's what we've been doing all the time. So, you want me to move forward, do we have anything else? Roll in.
Did you get some of that gray rock yet for that road we talked about?
I did, but I planned it.
Okay, and then I'd like to move forward with those other two roads so we can see how that works.
Okay. It looks real good. Like you said, I thought it was concrete.
Thank you.
What road did you put it on?
Well, he's got to put it on, we're going to put it on, what's that little road down there? It's a little one lane road on Highway 25 on the right past, behind that church. What's the name of that road?
I don't know, I asked Sammy about it.
But you can't grade it with the motor grader?
Right.
So we're going to put it on that little road right there. When you go past, it's...
I know where you're coming from.
Oh, right there, about Pine Grove?
Right there about Pine Grove.
Yes,
Yeah.
so we're going to try it right there. And then I've got two other small roads that I'm going to put it on to try it.
We have any other questions?
I don't.
Roadman.
I was just, Clyde's gone, but I was just gonna say I did two more slurry seal roads. They turned out really, really well. The slurry seal road that I did prior to that is holding up great.
I didn't like the slurry seal on Morehouse. A lot of complaints about that.
Oh, no, you didn't do
That was
slurry seal.
I mean, Fox Hill. Yeah,
No, this is slurry seal. It rides like
That was pretty neat, that presentation. What's the other road? I'm just gonna go by
Blue Road and Sellers Road were the two we got done last week.
Okay. Well, we want to acknowledge road manager's report. Is there a motion? Motion by Supervisor Montgomery, second by Supervisor Howard, that we acknowledge the road manager's report. All in favor? Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll take about a 1 minute break.
to the motion. They get a motion to that. Motion by Supervisor Johnson, second by Supervisor Howard, that we take 5 minutes break. All in favor?
Aye.
I wanna see that road. I know which road.
You're talking, yeah.
I know which one.
The lady calls me quite often, but
does.
they can't get the motor grader in there, so they skip it a lot because they have to take the tractor. So,
I know the road, I know the road.
yeah.
So I'll be checking that out.
Are you waiting?
Man.
Are you waiting all day?
Yeah.
Huh?
That's an holiday.
Well. Yes, that'll be one of the very last things, the mask mandate, because it's not on the agenda.
When they get there, that's what
Is that what everybody's waiting on, mask mandate?
Juvenile curfew.
The what?
Juvenile curfew.
Oh, you got that, we've already done that, so. Yeah. Oh, okay, gotcha. I mean, I hope you follow what they're doing, personally. But we'll see what the board decides. How are you?
Good, how are you?
Good.
How's your weekend?
Good. Maybe everything get even more back normal, but I think it is. You know, since we stayed, looks like everything's gonna move in that direction. So that's positive. Yeah. Oh yeah. But you know, you got some states. I went to Oklahoma this week. I didn't see my Oklahoma last time. You know, I mean, you just.
Florida's been like that.
Yeah.
Before
Florida
had already had mask on.
Oh yeah. And even if you go to South Mississippi, you know, even here in the, so it kind of depends on even where in the state you are.
You can go to a county over, you can go west and eat the Traceway. They don't know what a mask is.
Yeah.
They just know how to.
They ain't never had a mask mandate. What we got?
They know how to make a good greasy hamburger combo, though, man. I love the Traceway. It's kind of like this. The first time you eat the Traceway, it's like, man, it could be nothing better. And it's just.
That's right.
But you eat there a few times, you're like, whew. Chad, these masks that I got right here smell like formaldehyde. They come in like a pack. Terrible. I just pulled this one out.
Me and my son went for his birthday. So
Fishing yesterday morning.
You did?
And then.
How's that go? The beach? Oh wow! I love the fish. Especially if they're biting.
That's the only if they're biting. I can't fish in a swimming pool. I lose interest quick. But that was fun.
I was in bed all day yesterday. No.
Problem with our ponds is Dad has never let anybody.
They're gonna be better. But he told me that if he saw the funds out, anxiety was gonna be too bad. You don't put me to sleep before you start. You're going through my nose, down my throat, into my stomach.
Mom, what they just said later. They said Mr. Banks gonna get that pay guy to come back. Just buy it, this guy's quick. That's what the rumor is. This guy's leaving, he can't get a license back.
They didn't put me at the top.
Casey reported on me more than this. Oh, I forgot to ask Clyde about that bridge.
Well, Stanley don't want to leave, he just don't want to be shot for.
That's why you read it, because he ain't.
Because he does not want to be shot for.
You know, he did tell me.
I want that district tax to hit it up. He said Mr. Vegas told me to be shot for him, and he don't want to be shot for him.
He did tell me that.
Sammy's the lowest paid foreman out there.
As a matter of fact, I asked him about Bean, and he said,
yeah, he was the one. Oh.
He could not get anybody to help him. He was out there by himself, putting salt.
Me, Sammy, and Mr. Craig in my district. That was it. That was it.
We're speaking out this morning.
That was it.
Yes.
Maybe I didn't think the road crew.
If something would have fell on top of me, they just had to wait till the next person came on the roof.
I ran into your sister the other day. Is there a lady she takes fragrance off?
Which one? I got 4.
I don't know. The only one I know, I guess.
I got 4. Maryland?
Yeah, Maryland. Yeah, Maryland.
Oh, yeah, she does, she got 3 or 4 different people. Matter of fact, she's real good friends with Miss Jeffries down there on Craig Springs Road. You know that.
Miss Jeffrey's wife?
Bill, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh yeah, she's real close.
Yeah, because it's really into,
Maryland's known me since I was.
Oh yeah, she still call you John John.
Yeah.
I still am.
I mean,
I just saw her in the first one. She had somebody with her in the first one.
Oh, yeah.
She had taken the
I'd buy a fishing pole from up there and I'd bring them 2 pieces to Walmart and said, you know, I can't replace that.
well, there, you think you're gonna get Miss Grumpy?
She don't want to hear anything besides give that bill. That's all she want to hear. I've talked to her and talked to her and talked to her. And see, I didn't say it, but as a matter of fact, Raymond, I took him a new garbage can. He called and requested, so she's saying that nobody would. Raymond called and I delivered him a brand new garbage can. That's been about 3 years ago, 2 or 3 years. So they knew. I mean,
makes $14 a month.
Services were being offered. I put it like that.
Yeah, mate, he's the lowest paid.
I know it's
on that sheet.
Yeah, I mean, I would see the garbage can't have garbage, now go back through it again, because I know they would. Because it's, yeah, but she just, and listen, I can understand that she receiving this bill, and her brother was the one she would have been paying the bill, I understand that. But you know, I'm trying to explain to her, we can't give the bill. You know, Brother Raymond, he used to paint stuff right beside it, to right almost down there with, not Dewberry, it's on the,
it's on the one, it's on the 4 lane.
On the 4 lane.
Okay.
Yeah. What's that sawmill out there? Johnson.
Johnson.
Not Johnson.
Okay, on there.
Just right along in there.
But I was thinking it was back in 182.
I'm ready. Probably not.
He said he's going down to his office to get some.
Give a motion that we get back in session, go back in session. Motion by Supervisor Miller, second by Supervisor McGovern, and we'll go back in session. All in favor? Motion carries. continue on then with, Chancellor Clerk Business, Ms. Livingston.
Just take all the ones that we had listed into the month of March, and those remain the same as citizens.
Motion by Supervisor Governor, second by Supervisor Miller, no CDs, all in favor? Motion carries 5-0. County Business, County Administration.
Payroll change.
Motion on payroll changes. So moved.
Well, I do have a question, Miss Emily, and this employee does not have a number assigned to him. It's the second.
Payroll change is the second one.
Okay, payroll changes.
You
have something.
Yes, I don't have a problem with their starting pay, but there's a little comment down in here, that they would go to another rate of pay. You know,
The lowest paid foreman that we have,
Makes
is
less.
that person would make less than that.
after 90 days.
And this person's gonna come in 90 days and make more than that person.
I
That
thought-
needs to be addressed.
The lowest paid foreman make less than 20? You sure?
Yeah.
He does, and
I
that
thought all
needs,
of them were around
25. He's in shop B.
Uh,
He's in shop B, and he makes less than that. That
A lot
needs
of
to
the
be,
gentlemen
we
in
don't
that
need
shop.
somebody to come in and
I agree.
90 days and make more than that. Can we approve everything, approve his start pay, but not
Don't mind
approve
the start
the
pay.
note at the bottom? And have a discussion about that with Mr. Baggett later?
Yeah, will you a motion to that?
Or, yeah,
I'll make that motion.
and I'll second it.
Motion by Supervisor Montgomery, second by Supervisor Miller, that we approve the starting pay at $16 per hour, and that we address the promotion pay at a later date, Mr. Baggett.
Correct.
I want to maybe address it pretty quick because I don't think this person would take that job without that stipulation.
Well, I understand that,
Yeah, I understand. So
but
we
there's
need to
also
clear
people
up-
that we're trying to hold
Yeah,
on
we
to.
need to clear
That
up
have been there for years.
other person's
Well, we'll
situation.
clear it up, yeah, we might have to do a raise.
Yeah.
Something, make it happen.
Well, they don't have to come through it'll have to come through payroll changes later.
But I thought at one time all of our foremen had the same starting pay, and then we moved them up from there. Sammy never got it.
And he's been asking,
He is, and he was one of the only ones out in the ice storm.
it was me,
Working.
him, and one other gentleman in my district.
He's the lowest paid foreman.
And we cleaned the whole district up in 3 days.
Well, I do know that, you all had some concerns about it earlier.
I agree, and I had a heart to heart.
So has he
He's improved.
He has-
He's not perfect, like none of us, but he's certainly improved.
All in favor of the motion pertaining to,
And all the rest I'm good with.
Jason Williams, I believe that's Jason, oh, I'm sorry, I shouldn't say that.
Hey, I do have a question. I do have one
All in
question.
favor, we got 5-0 vote on that.
I do have a question about the jail. Is there a reason some of these, and I guess this would be a,
They were used as part-time and as bail, and we're no longer using part-time in the jail.
okay.
They're just being used as bail. And that's what that's all.
Okay.
The motion to approve all payroll changes,
And I will address that.
all the other payroll changes.
I'll make that
There's a
motion.
motion by Supervisor Montgomery, second by Supervisor Howard, that we approve the other payroll changes that we haven't addressed previously. All in favor? Motion carries 5-0.
Got 911 road name request for Wallace O, and this is on Step Creek Road.
Motion.
Yeah. Can we do both of them? All of the 911 requests at one time?
Yeah, and we got one on
Simon Sage
Lane and
Drive.
Sage Drive, those are on off of West Point Road.
Motion for approval on all 911 road name changes. Names approval. Motion by Supervisor Miller, second by Supervisor Montgomery, all in favor? Motion carries 5-0.
got, ceasefire right-of-way request on Lyon County Lake Road. When you're in the Lyon County Lake Road, ceasefire help act.
So moved. Motion by Supervisor Howard, second by Supervisor Miller. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries 5-1.
Pick an invoice for $12,650 and get order to pay it.
Motion by Supervisor Montgomery, second by Supervisor Trainer. Supervisor Trainer, all in favor? 5-0.
Next thing we have on the agenda is, city county interlocal agreement for tax collection. My understanding that they have agreed to go up to $60,000 for 1 year, and then they're probably going to start doing it themselves at the end of the year. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Motion
Because we were gonna increase the fee.
They did from 50 to 60, so
Yeah.
I'll second that.
Motion by Supervisor Miller, second by Supervisor Montgomery, that we approve, that's a new arrangement, all in favor? Motion carries 5-0.
Got a, budget amendment for the road department. This is for the sales tax money that came in that we put into the road department budget. Need an order for this.
So moved. Second. Motion by Supervisor Montgomery, second by Supervisor Budget Amendment, Road Department, Supervisor Howard. Motion by Supervisor Howard, all in favor? Motion carries 5-0.
Mississippi Public Entity Workers' Comp Trust annual meeting will be on Tuesday, May the 18th. If a representative from the county is not going to attend, we need to approve a proxy vote being allowed. And Supervisor Turner, I didn't know if you attended this or not.
Yeah, I'll be there for that. And I'll go ahead and send the property for just in case I have car trouble or some happen, can't get there.
Just sign there where I got that note.
We all familiar with who's on the agenda to be approved. We looked at those names. We all agree with them. Motion for approval. Motion by Supervisor Trainer, second by Supervisor Miller. All in favor? Motion carries 5-0.
Okay, now this is MPE workers' comp. This is not the Masons.
Okay, good, I'm glad you mentioned that. Yeah, we did.
You got that one outside?
Well, every now and then I will attend.
Okay.
I think it's always good to go and get the process going.
Move on. Okay. Payment of credit card charges in the amount of $2,412.71.
So moved.
Second. Motion by Supervisor Montgomery, second by Supervisor Howard on credit card charges. All in favor? Motion carries 5-0.
Okay, and payment of the claim docket. Claim number 2526 through 2806 for $2,385,610.10.
Motion by Supervisor Montgomery, second by Supervisor Howard, payment of claim docket. All in favor? Motion carries 4-0.
You second that?
Here we, county business supervisor.
Yeah, are we gonna, address this mask mandate? I'm thinking that it's time to say that, I know the city has put it on the business level. Can we take these masks off? I would make a motion that we would do away with the mask ordinance.
You saying it completely, or you completely, do away with it?
Well, here's my thing, and I've said it all along. If everybody's gonna do it, I don't have a problem doing it. If it works, it works. It helps. I don't have a problem putting the mask on. I don't have a problem putting the mask on for business asking me to put one on. There are people that won't specifically go to that business because they make you put a mask on. It's not a big deal to me. Like that comes right. But if everybody's gonna do it, I think it works. But if I can go to Straightway in Western County, nobody's wearing a mask. I go to U4, I can go to Ackerman, I can go to Louisville. And if we're all doing it, I'm for it. If we're not all doing it, I think it's useless. Personally.
Let's get some feedback from our individual county. We work in our county bills. We got two individuals because we're working inside our county bills.
Well, some of them have limited access though to the public. Some of them have a lot of access to the public. You know, the vaccine, it says that once you've been vaccinated, that's what the website says, that you're protected.
And for 80% of it.
You know, that's what the website's reporting, so I would vote to remove the mandate myself.
I will vote in favor of that with one stipulation, that any department head reserves the right, if they want to enforce the mask mandate coming into their department, that they still have the right. I will support that. With the motion being made like that.
That's a good observation. Good observation. You asking.
What does the CDC recommend? First of all, no, I think we need to keep the mask. Just keep my conversation.
CDC said unless you vaccinated, everybody you know in that building with you is vaccinated, that you don't have to wear a mask.
Once you're vaccinated, you're safe is what I read in that CDC comment. So once, you know, that's the encouragement to get vaccinated. Once you're vaccinated, you're safe, and you're safe from, you know, giving it to somebody else is what I read in there.
We have one employee in my office that's not getting the vaccination. And so, I don't know what our responsibility is to them. I mean, they decided not to get it, so do we make sure everybody comes in there is masked for their protection?
In order to achieve herd immunity, we need about 75 to 80% of the people to get the vaccine. If you refuse to get the vaccine, you won't get that. That's just bottom line.
Excuse me?
I said, if you refuse to get vaccinated, you need to keep the mask on. I mean, that's just
But
bottom
the
line.
people that comes around this person, we be made to wear a mask?
That's what I'm saying, is the people that have been vaccinated.
But evidently, according to the number, we don't have but about 25% of the folks vaccinated. I've been vaccinated fully twice. I'm fully vaccinated. I'll say that. Now, I'm not asking about it to admit that. But I am.
I'm fully vaccinated.
Well, you know, so.
Almost every person in this room. No, sir. I know too much about me.
Again, I will vote in favor of with the stipulation that every department head reserves the right to enforce a mask mandate if they so choose. So they'll have to make that decision on, you know, protecting their employees. But, you know, as far as just a blanket, and I would even extend that right to any business owner out in the county, reserves the right to enforce a mask mandate if they choose.
And I'll keep mine on if it makes others uncomfortable. I mean,
You sit next to me, you're fine.
I'm just saying, I'm amiable to it. I get it. I think we've let this mask kind of divide us as a country, and I think we're falling prey to what people may want if we do that.
Well, I wouldn't go that far.
Well, I mean,
I would say
I'm not.
This is something we never dealt with as a country, so we were just trying to do what
We do the best we could. You're right.
But a lot of this started with slowing the curve in the hospital, you know, to make sure that we didn't overwhelm our medical centers, and there's not any issue with that. I mean, that was, I think, part of the first with the governor and everything else was to manage that area. So, all right. So the motion has been made with the amendment.
I'm okay with the amendment. That's reasonable.
I'll second it. The motion with the amendment.
We got a motion by Supervisor Montgomery, second by Supervisor Miller, that we remove the mask requirement for all places unless the building department requires a mask. I hope I'm saying that right.
Or the property owner of the business, or the business owner requires it.
Right.
That's hard for them to require that. If we remove the requirements and leave it up to the property owner, how difficult is that going to be? And I guess that's
I mean, the city did the same thing.
The city did it. Walmart is still requiring you to wear a
that's a
mask.
question for the sheriff department. I think that's a question for the sheriff department as to how hard it's going to be for the business to enforce it if the county and city remove it.
I mean, they would call us and we would go ask the person to leave. Same way as if they were caught stealing prior to and banned from the store, they came back, we would respond and ask them to leave. So, I mean, we're going to respond to all the calls. We didn't write tickets when it was, we'd tell them they had to leave and put a mask on. So it'd be the same response.
I don't know, I think we got a long ways to go before we finally get COVID-19 under control. 30% of the population has been vaccinated. So that leaves a whole 70% of the population that's unvaccinated. So we run into a lot of individuals out there who have not been vaccinated. That's my statement in regards to that. So I have to carry the motion through. Motion by Supervisor Governor, second by Supervisor Miller. Any other questions, statements, or concerns?
That's, Attorney Robinson, would you read the way you got that
It's
going on?
a motion to cancel, basically, to cancel the mask mandate unless the department heads and the county department heads are allowed to do so whenever they feel comfortable. I'm going to clean that up. Business owners allowed to make a decision for themselves. Basically,
Pretty much, business owners and department heads reserve the right
Yes,
to
sir.
enforce a mask mandate if they so choose.
Let's say businesses and business owners, because if Dollar General, they don't own the business, they manage the business. And if Dollar General says, hey, manager, staff, let's put the mask on, then you adhere to it.
Yeah. And I think Dollar General still has that in place.
They do. One case.
Okay. All in favor? All opposed? Okay, we've got 3-2. Motion carried. 3-2.
ladies, do y'all understand that? Because I know that y'all are going to write the story, and I don't want you to be confused. Thank you.
Okay. Any other business coming from supervisor?
My motion's still on the floor, but I'm gonna make it again about issuing those bonds up to $10 billion. I think you mentioned yourself that we can issue 5 and not raise taxes, and I'll settle for that.
Didn't we?
We asked you to go back and gather some more.
Well, Well, we talked about, capital improvement, and we were asked to send our wish list, on that capital improvement project, so he could come back to us and talk to us about moving forward.
And he's waiting for us to set a date for him to come back. I think there's 2 supervisors that didn't send a wish list.
I hadn't sent one out. I hadn't sent
One
mine
of
yet.
them.
Did I give you mine?
I will send it today. And I would like, before we make another move, I would like to hear back from him.
Okay.
To see what
It
he
will
got.
probably gonna be towards the end of, May. I think he's gonna be out of the office, and then I'm gonna be out on the 17th, so it'll probably be towards the last week in May, if that works for y'all.
I would like to ask if the board would, go into executive session to talk about, employee hiring personnel.
Well, he's got a motion on the board.
Oh,
It didn't get a second, so it did.
Okay. So we're gonna continue to collect information, all the supervisors, I'm sure it's gonna send them a wish list, and then we have more information about how to move forward and what we're gonna move forward with. So now we got a motion to go into executive.
To discuss personnel.
Second.
I'm just going to executive session. So my supervisor, Howard, second my supervisor, Montgomery, go into, closed session. Closed session. There you go at the closed session. All in favor? Motion carries 5.
Mr. Lewis, in this circumstance, you probably need to exit the room. Oh, no, you.
Unless you're applying for the job.
Okay. He got, is that all? Sir, is that one all?